When a billionaire crime lord kneels before a broken waitress in a rain-soaked parking lot, you know someone's world is about to burn. Tonight, I'm bringing you a story about power, obsession, and a woman who had nothing left to lose, until a man who could destroy cities decided she was worth keeping. This is the kind of tale that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about love and survival. Stick around until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. You're not ready for what happens next. Let's begin. Rain came down like punishment. Lena Vale stood in the fluorescent wash of a dying supermarket parking lot, water streaming through her hair, her jeans soaked through at the knees where she'd crouched beside her car. The sedan, a rusted piece of garbage she'd bought for $800 3 years ago, listed hard to the right, rear tire completely shredded. Not flat. Shredded. Rubber hung in strips like skin peeled back from bone. She had $43 in her checking account, $17 in cash. A new tire would cost at least $60, probably more. The tow alone would eat everything she had. Lena pressed her forehead against the cold metal of the hood and tried to remember how to breathe. Inside the store, through the rain-streaked glass, she could see them. Grant Holloway and his fiancée, Vanessa something or other, browsing the wine aisle like they were selecting art for a gallery wall. Grant looked exactly the same as he had 2 years ago when he'd left her. Tailored blazer, perfect hair, that smile that made strangers trust him with their money. Vanessa was everything Lena wasn't. Tall, polished, dripping in gold jewelry that probably cost more than Lena's annual rent. They'd seen her, of course. Grant had made sure of it. 20 minutes ago, Lena had been standing in line with her groceries, discount bread, eggs, instant coffee, when Grant appeared beside her like a ghost from a life she'd buried. He'd smiled that venomous smile and introduced Vanessa with exaggerated courtesy, then made a show of paying for Lena's groceries because, "You look like you need it, babe." The cashier had looked at Lena with pity. Vanessa had looked at her like she was something stuck to the bottom of a shoe. Grant had leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear, and whispered, "This is what you get for thinking you were ever going to be more than this." Now Lena stood in the rain beside her broken car, groceries abandoned inside, hands shaking so hard she couldn't hold her phone steady enough to search for tow truck numbers. She hated that she was crying, hated that he could still make her feel this small. Headlights cut through the downpour. At first, Lena didn't look up. Plenty of cars came and went from this lot, but these headlights didn't move. They stayed fixed on her, bright and unwavering, until she finally raised her head and squinted through the rain. The vehicle was black, expensive, sleek in a way that didn't belong in this neighborhood, in this parking lot, beside her pathetic rusted sedan. A Maserati, armored by the look of the reinforced panels. The engine purred, low and predatory. Lena's pulse spiked. She took a step back, water splashing under her worn sneakers. This wasn't someone stopping to help. People who drove cars like that didn't stop in places like this unless they were looking for something. Or someone. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that fit like it had been cut specifically for his body, which it probably had. No umbrella. He didn't seem to care about the rain. It darkened his black hair, ran down the sharp planes of his face, soaked into the fabric of his suit jacket. He looked at Lena like he'd been searching for her his entire life. Car trouble? His voice was low, smooth, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't ask questions. It gave orders and expected compliance. Lena wiped rain from her face. "I'm fine." "You're not." "I don't need help." "Yes, you do." He moved closer, not threatening exactly, but purposeful. Lena's instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs wouldn't move. There was something about the way he looked at her, not like Grant had looked at her with contempt and dismissal. This man looked at her like she was a problem he intended to solve. Up close, she could see his eyes. Silver gray, cold as winter steel, but somehow burning with something she couldn't name. His hands were scarred, thin white lines across his knuckles, a longer mark cutting across the back of his left hand. These weren't the hands of someone who sat behind a desk all day. "Lucien Moretti," he said, extending one of those scarred hands. Lena stared at it. "I didn't ask for your name." "No, but now you have it." She didn't take his hand. "What do you want?" Lucien's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. To help you. I don't know you. Not yet. The way he said it sent a chill down her spine that had nothing to do with the rain. Lena glanced back toward the supermarket. Grant and Vanessa were at the checkout now, loading designer reusable bags into a cart. When she looked back at Lucien, he was watching her with unnerving focus. Someone hurt you, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Lena's throat tightened. That's none of your business. It is now. You're insane. Probably. He gestured toward the Maserati. Get in the car. Absolutely not. Your tire is destroyed. You have no money for a tow. It's 38 degrees and raining, and you're soaked through. His eyes never left hers. You can stand here and freeze, or you can get in the car. I don't get into cars with strangers. Smart, but I'm not going to hurt you. That's exactly what someone who's going to hurt me would say. Lucien tilted his head slightly, studying her. You're right. But if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't ask permission first. The casual certainty in his voice should have terrified her. Maybe it did, but there was something else underneath the fear, a sick, twisted relief at the idea of someone else making decisions for her, even if just for a few minutes. Lena was so tired of being alone, so tired of surviving on fumes and sheer stubbornness. Where would you take me? She asked, hating how weak her voice sounded. Wherever you need to go. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. Lena looked at her car, looked at the supermarket, looked at the rain and the dark and the long, cold night ahead of her if she stayed here. Then she looked at Lucien Moretti, this stranger with violence in his hands and something dangerous burning behind his eyes. And she made a choice that would either save her or destroy her. She got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. The seats were heated. Lena's wet clothes soaked into the pristine upholstery, but Lucien didn't seem to care. He slid behind the wheel with practiced ease, and the engine roared to life. Address? He asked. Lena gave him the cross streets near her apartment. She wasn't stupid enough to give him the exact building. Lucien pulled out of the parking lot smoothly, the Maserati gliding over potholes that would have rattled her sedan apart. Through the tinted windows, Lena watched the supermarket disappear into the rain. She waited for the fear to hit. Instead, she felt numb. The man in the store, Lucien said after several minutes of silence. He's the one who hurt you. Lena's jaw tightened. I don't want to talk about it. Grant Holloway, investment banker, engaged to Vanessa Carmichael, daughter of the Carmichael Hotel family, lives in a penthouse on Lakeshore Drive. Lucien's voice was perfectly neutral. Am I close? Lena's blood went cold. How do you know that? I make it my business to know things. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now. He threw her own words back at her with the ghost of a smile. Lena pressed herself against the passenger door, heart hammering. Let me out. No. Let me out of this car right now, or I swear to God You'll what? Lucien didn't even glance at her. His hands were steady on the wheel, his expression calm. Scream. Jump out of a moving vehicle, call the police? Now he did look at her, just for a second, and the cold amusement in his eyes made her stomach drop. Do whatever you need to do, but I'm taking you home first. You're kidnapping me. I'm giving you a ride. I didn't ask for this. You got in the car. Lena wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to throw herself out the door and take her chances with the pavement. But she didn't. Because he was right. She had gotten in the car. She'd made the choice. And somewhere underneath the fear and anger, a small dark part of her was relieved to let someone else take control, even if that someone was clearly dangerous. They drove in silence for 10 minutes. The neighborhood outside the windows gradually shifted from the rundown area around the supermarket to something slightly less desperate. Lena's building came into view, a sagging brick structure with bars on the ground floor windows and graffiti sprayed across the side wall. Lucien pulled to the curb and killed the engine. Lena reached for the door handle. Wait. She froze. Lucien turned to face her fully. In the dim light from the street lamp, his features looked carved from stone, beautiful and brutal at the same time. I'm going to ask you a question, he said quietly, and I need you to answer honestly. Why would I do that? Because I can help you, but only if you're honest with me. Lena laughed, sharp and bitter. You don't even know me. Why would you want to help me? That's not the question I'm asking. Then what is? Lucien leaned closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could see the rain still glistening in his hair, smell the faint scent of smoke and expensive whiskey clinging to his clothes. Do you want him to pay? Lucien asked softly. Grant Holloway, the man who humiliated you. Do you want him to suffer the way he made you suffer? Lena's breath caught. She should say no, should tell this stranger to leave her alone, get out of his car, and never look back. But the truth clawed its way up her throat before she could stop it. Yes. The word came out as barely a whisper. Lucien's eyes gleamed. Good. Why is that good? Because I'm going to destroy him. Lena stared at him. What? Grant Holloway. I'm going to take everything he has, his career, his reputation, his freedom. Lucien's voice was soft, almost gentle, but there was steel underneath. And you're going to watch. You're insane. You said that already. I mean it. So do I. Lucien reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. His fingers were warm despite the cold rain. Grant Holloway stole from me. Did you know that? Lena shook her head mutely. His investment firm has been laundering money. My money. Lucien's hand dropped away. I've been tracking him for months, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment to move. Then why? Lena's voice cracked. Why are you telling me this? Because when I saw you in that parking lot crying over a broken car while he paraded his new life in front of you, I realized something. Lucien smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Lena had ever seen. Destroying his career isn't enough. I want to destroy everything he values, everything he thinks makes him better than people like you. People like me, Lena repeated flatly. People who survive, who fight, who don't give up even when the world tries to grind them into dust. Lucien's eyes burned into hers. Grant Holloway is a parasite. He takes from people who actually work, who actually create, and he calls it success. Men like him don't deserve what they have. Lena's head was spinning. This is crazy. You're talking about what? Revenge? On my behalf? We just met. I know. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to make sense. Lucien opened his door. Rain and cold air rushed into the warm cocoon of the car. Get some sleep. Tomorrow I'll send someone to fix your car. I don't want your help. Yes, you do. Lena climbed out of the car on shaking legs. The rain had slowed to a cold drizzle. She stood on the sidewalk, soaked and shivering, watching Lucien through the open driver's door. Why are you really doing this? She asked. Lucien was quiet for a long moment, then, because I know what it's like to be treated like you're nothing. And I know what it feels like to make the people who hurt you regret it. Before Lena could respond, he pulled the door shut. The Maserati slid away from the curb and disappeared into the night, leaving her standing alone in the rain with more questions than answers and a terrible, dangerous hope unfurling in her chest. Lena climbed the 3 flights of stairs to her apartment in a daze. Her hands were shaking so badly it took 4 tries to get the key in the lock. Inside, the studio was exactly as she'd left it, cramped, cold, smelling faintly of mildew and old coffee. A mattress on the floor, a card table serving as a desk, clothes hanging from a tension rod across one corner because the closet door had fallen off 6 months ago and the landlord still hadn't fixed it. This was her life. This was what Grant had been so eager to escape, what he'd mocked her for not being able to climb out of. Lena peeled off her wet clothes and stood under the scalding spray of the shower until her skin turned red and the hot water ran out. Then she wrapped herself in the threadbare towel that served as her only bathrobe and sat on the edge of her mattress, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against every instinct screaming at her to delete it, Lena opened the message. Sleep well. Tomorrow changes everything. L. Her thumb hovered over the delete button. Then she set the phone down and lay back on the mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling. Tomorrow changes everything. Lena closed her eyes and tried not to think about silver-gray eyes and scarred hands and a voice promising destruction like other people promised flowers. She failed. Sleep came eventually, but it was thin and restless, full of dreams about burning buildings and men in expensive suits who looked at her like she was something precious worth protecting or possessing. Lena woke to pounding on her door. Pale morning light filtered through the single window. Her phone said 7:47 a.m. She'd gotten maybe 4 hours of sleep. The pounding came again, harder. Lena Vale, delivery. Lena stumbled to the door and cracked it open, keeping the chain lock engaged. A man in a mechanic's uniform stood in the hallway holding a clipboard and a set of keys. "Your car's fixed," he said. "New tire, full tune-up, oil change. It's parked on the street out front." Lena blinked. I can't afford." "Already paid for." The man held out the keys. "Have a good day, ma'am." He was gone before Lena could form another coherent sentence. She looked down at the keys in her hand. Her keys. Attached to the keychain her mother had given her before she died. A cheap plastic thing shaped like a coffee cup. Lucien Moretti had fixed her car. Lena's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "Lunch at noon. I'll send a car. Wear something that makes you feel powerful. L." Lena stared at the message for a long time. She should block the number. Should forget last night ever happened. Should go back to her terrible cafe job and her empty apartment and her small, safe, predictable life. Instead, she opened her closet. She owned exactly 2 dresses. One was a black shift she'd worn to her mother's funeral 5 years ago. The other was dark green, bought on clearance from a thrift store, hemline slightly uneven, but the color brought out the gold flecks in her brown eyes. Lena pulled the green dress from its hanger and laid it on the bed. "Tomorrow changes everything," Lucien had said. Maybe it was time to let it. The car arrived at 11:55 a.m. Not the Maserati this time. A sleek black Mercedes with tinted windows and a driver who opened the rear door without a word. Lena climbed inside, heart hammering against her ribs. The interior was just as luxurious as the Maserati had been. Leather seats, climate control, a bottle of sparkling water waiting in the cup holder with a note attached. "Hydrate. You'll need your strength. L." Lena's hands trembled as she opened the water. The city slid past outside the windows. They drove away from her neighborhood, through downtown, into an area Lena had only ever seen in magazines. Glass towers, restaurants with names she couldn't pronounce, people in suits that cost more than her monthly rent. The car pulled up in front of a building that looked like it had been carved from black glass and steel. The driver opened her door. "Top floor," he said. "They're expecting you." Lena stepped onto the sidewalk and looked up. The building seemed to stretch into infinity. She walked inside. The lobby was all marble and gold accents. A woman behind the reception desk smiled at her, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes, the kind that said, "I know you don't belong here." "Lena Vale," Lena said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "I'm here to see Mr. Moretti." "Yes." The woman gestured toward the elevators. "Penthouse level. Use the express elevator on the right." The elevator was glass-walled. Lena watched the city drop away beneath her as she rose higher and higher. Her stomach lurched with more than just the motion. The doors opened onto a private hallway. At the end, a set of double doors stood slightly ajar. Lena walked forward on legs that didn't feel like her own. She pushed the doors open and stepped into another world. The penthouse was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city skyline. Black marble floors. Modern furniture that looked like it belonged in an art museum. Fresh flowers. White orchids on every surface. And in the center of it all, standing beside a dining table set for 2, was Lucien Moretti. He'd changed from the suit he'd worn last night. Now he wore charcoal slacks and a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing more of those scars on his forearms. His hair was still damp, like he'd just stepped out of the shower. When he saw her, something shifted in his expression. "You wore the green," he said quietly. Lena's hand went self-consciously to the dress. "It's all I have." "It's perfect." He moved toward her, and Lena had to force herself not to step back. Lucien stopped just within arm's reach, close enough that she could see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his pupils dilated slightly as he looked at her. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked. Lena considered lying, then decided he'd see through it anyway. "Yes." "Good, you should be." Lucien gestured toward the table. "But I'm not going to hurt you. Sit." Eat. We have things to discuss. Lena sat. Lunch was delivered by silent staff who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Delicate pasta, fresh bread, wine that probably cost more than Lena's rent. She barely tasted any of it. Lucien watched her the entire time. Grant Holloway's engagement party is in 3 days, he said finally, setting down his wine glass. Saturday night, black tie event at the Carmichael Hotel, downtown. Lena's stomach dropped. I know. He sent me an invitation. Lucian's eyes went cold. He what? As a joke. He wanted me to see. Her voice cracked. He wanted me to watch him celebrate his new life. Did you RSVP? Of course not. You will now. Lena set down her fork. I'm not going to that party. Yes, you are. Absolutely not. I'd rather. You're going, Lucien interrupted, his voice like iron. And I'm going with you. The room seemed to tilt. You want to go to Grant's engagement party? Lena said slowly. With me. Yes. Why? Lucien leaned back in his chair, studying her with those unsettling silver eyes. Because Saturday night, the FBI is going to arrest Grant Holloway for fraud and money laundering, and I want you there when it happens. The words hung in the air like smoke. Lena couldn't breathe. You're going to what? Frame him? Frame him, Lucien smiled. No, everything I've given the FBI is real. Grant Holloway is a criminal. I'm simply making sure justice is served. That's not justice. That's revenge. Is there a difference? Yes! Not to me. Lucien stood and moved around the table until he was standing beside her chair. Grant Holloway took from you. He made you feel small, worthless, like you didn't matter. His voice dropped lower. I'm going to show him exactly how wrong he was. Lena looked up at him, heart pounding. And what do you get out of this? Lucien reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his scarred fingers gentle against her skin. I get to see you smile when his world burns down around him. 3 days. Lena had 3 days to decide if she was actually going to walk into Grant Holloway's engagement party on the arm of a man who terrified her almost as much as he fascinated her. She stood in her apartment that afternoon, staring at her phone. Lucien's driver had dropped her off an hour ago, and she still felt the ghost of his fingers against her skin, still heard his voice promising to burn down Grant's world like it was nothing more complicated than ordering coffee. Her thumb hovered over Grant's invitation email. She should delete it. Block Lucien's number. Go back to work at the cafe tomorrow and pretend none of this had ever happened. Instead, she hit reply and typed 2 words. I'll attend. The response came 30 seconds later. From Grant, not Lucien. Wow, didn't think you'd actually show. Don't embarrass yourself. Dress code is black tie, not Goodwill clearance rack. Lena's hands shook with rage so pure it felt like acid in her veins. Her phone buzzed again. Different number, Lucien. What did he say? Lena stared at the message. How did Lucien know Grant had responded? Was he watching her emails, her phone? She typed back. How are you doing this? Doing what? Monitoring my messages, my life, everything. The response took longer this time. I told you, I make it my business to know things, especially things that concern you. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Now tell me what he said. Lena's finger hovered over the delete button. Then she forwarded Grant's message. Lucien's response was immediate. Saturday night, he's going to regret every word he's ever said to you. I promise. Lena set the phone down and pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars. What was she doing? Getting involved with a man who casually admitted to surveillance, who talked about destroying people like it was a hobby, who looked at her like she was something he'd decided to claim whether she wanted it or not. But then she thought about Grant's face in that supermarket, the contempt, the casual cruelty, the way he'd bought her groceries like she was a charity case, like humiliating her in front of strangers was just another Tuesday for him. And she thought about Lucien's scarred hands and cold eyes, and the way he'd said you matter without actually saying the words. Lena picked up her phone and typed, If I do this, I need to know what I'm walking into. The truth. All of it. The response came fast. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. I'll send a car. Bring questions. I'll give you answers. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She lay on her mattress, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling, thinking about silver eyes and promises of revenge and the weight of Lucian's attention like a physical thing pressing against her chest. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, her phone lit up with another message. "Are you sleeping?" Lena stared at it, then typed, "No." "Good. Neither am I." "Why are you texting me at 3 a.m.? "Because I can't stop thinking about you." Lena's breath caught. She stared at the words until they blurred. "You don't even know me," she typed. "I know you're strong. I know you survive things that would break other people. I know when you smile it's real, not that fake shit people use to hide what they're actually feeling." "You've seen me smile exactly once." "Once was enough." Lena's hands trembled. "This is insane." "You keep saying that because it keeps being true." "Go to sleep, Lena. Tomorrow we talk. Saturday we make Grant Holloway wish he'd never been born." Lena set the phone down and pulled the blanket over her head like she was 17 again, hiding from the world. But she was smiling, and she hated that she was smiling. The car arrived at exactly 2 o'clock the next afternoon. Different driver this time. Older man, military bearing, scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He opened the door without speaking, and Lena climbed in. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city entirely, heading into suburbs that gradually became estates. Then genuine countryside. Trees lined the road. Gates appeared, then disappeared. Wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Finally, the car turned onto a private drive. Lena's breath stopped. The estate stretched before her like something out of a movie. Stone walls, manicured gardens even in late autumn. A house, no, a mansion, that looked like it had been transplanted from the Italian countryside. Warm golden stone, arched windows, a fountain in the circular driveway depicting some kind of mythological scene she couldn't identify. The car stopped at the front entrance. The driver opened her door. "He's waiting inside." Lena stepped out onto cobblestones that probably cost more per square foot than her entire apartment. The massive wooden door opened before she reached it. Lucien stood in the doorway wearing dark jeans and a black sweater that made his eyes look like molten silver. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. "You came," he said. "You sent a car." "You could have refused." "Could I?" Lena met his gaze. "Or would you have just sent someone to drag me here anyway?" Lucien's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. "I like that you're not afraid to be honest with me." "I'm terrified of you." "That's different from being too afraid to speak." He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. The interior was breathtaking. High ceilings, original art on the walls, furniture that managed to be both expensive and actually comfortable looking. But there was an edge to everything. Security cameras in the corners, reinforced doors, windows that Lena suspected were bulletproof. This wasn't just a house. This was a fortress. "Wine?" Lucien asked, moving toward a bar that probably cost more than most people's cars. "It's 2 in the afternoon." "That's not a no." Lena's jaw tightened. "I want answers. That's why I'm here." "And you'll get them." Lucien poured 2 glasses of red wine anyway and crossed to where she stood. He held one out. "But first, drink. You look like you need it." Lena took the glass. Their fingers brushed, and she felt that same electric shock she'd felt in the car, in the penthouse, every time he touched her. She took a long drink. The wine was incredible, smooth and complex, and probably older than she was. Lucien watched her over the rim of his own glass. "Ask," he said quietly. Lena set her glass down on the nearest table. "Who are you? Really?" "I told you, Lucien Moretti. That's a name, not an answer." "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How you make your money, why you have this house, why your car is armored, why you have scars on your hands like you've been in fights." Lena's voice rose. "Why you can just casually destroy someone's entire life and act like it's nothing." Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his own glass and moved to the window, looking out over the grounds. "My family has been in the import-export business for 3 generations, he said finally. "Import-export," Lena repeated flatly. "That's the story you're going with?" Lucien turned to face her. "It's not a story. We do import goods, export others, facilitate transactions between parties who prefer to operate outside traditional banking systems." "You're talking about crime. I'm talking about business." "That's the same thing. Not to me. Lucian moved closer. The world isn't divided into legal and illegal, Lena. It's divided into powerful and powerless. I chose to be powerful. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. So you're what? Mafia? That's a simplification. Is it accurate? Lucian's eyes were hard. My family controls distribution networks across the eastern seaboard. We move products. We provide security. We settle disputes when the legal system fails to deliver justice. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates in spaces the law chooses to ignore. He took another step closer. And yes, sometimes that means violence. Sometimes it means making decisions that would horrify ordinary people, but it also means I have resources, power, the ability to protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The certainty in his voice sent ice down Lena's spine. This is insane, she whispered. I should leave. I should run as far from you as possible. But you won't. How do you know? Because you're still here. Lucian reached out and traced his thumb along her jawline. Because when I told you I was going to destroy Grant, you didn't call the police. You asked when. Lena jerked away from his touch. That doesn't mean I want to be part of your world. You're already part of it. The moment you got in my car, you chose a side. I didn't choose anything. I was desperate and stupid and brave, Lucian interrupted. You were brave enough to take a chance on a stranger because staying where you were hurt too much to bear. His voice softened. I see you, Lena. I see how hard you fight, how much you survive, and I'm not going to let you go back to a life where people like Grant Holloway get to treat you like garbage. Lena's eyes burned. You can't just decide that. I already have. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? Lucian challenged. Tell me. Because from where I'm standing, you have two choices. Go back to your apartment and your cafe job and your broken car, waiting for the next Grant to come along and remind you that you're not good enough. Or, he paused, or take what I'm offering. Which is what exactly? Protection. Resources. A life where you don't have to count coins in parking lots while men who don't deserve what they have mock you for surviving. Lena shook her head. You're talking about owning me. I'm talking about partnership. Partnership implies equality. You've made it pretty clear that's not what this is. Lucian smiled, sharp and dangerous. You want equality? Fine. Ask me anything. Right now. Complete honesty. Lena's mind raced. The scars on your hands, where did they come from? Knife fights. 3 different occasions. One when I was 17 and stupid. One when I was 22 and protecting my sister. One last year when someone thought they could take what belonged to my family. Did you kill them? Yes. The answer came without hesitation, without shame. Lena's stomach turned. All 3? The first one died accidentally. I was defending myself and got lucky. The second one, yes, I killed deliberately. He put my sister in the hospital. Lucian's eyes went cold. The third one I made suffer first. Jesus Christ. You wanted honesty. Lena backed toward the door. I need to leave. Not yet. You haven't asked the important question. Which is? Why I really approached you in that parking lot. Lena froze. You said Grant was laundering money for you. That's true. But it's not why I was there that night. Then why were you? Lucien moved closer, and this time Lena didn't back away. She couldn't. Her legs wouldn't move. I was following you, he said quietly. The room tilted. What? I'd been tracking Grant's operation for weeks, following his associates, his transactions, his movements. And 3 weeks ago, I saw him meet someone in that supermarket parking lot. I ran the plates on every car there, cross-referenced credit card transactions, pulled security footage. Lena's blood went cold. You saw me. I saw you buying groceries, counting change, driving away in that piece of shit sedan. Lucian's voice was almost gentle. And then I did what I always do. I researched, found out who you were, your relationship with Grant, how he left you, what your life looked like now. You stalked me. I gathered information. That's the same fucking thing. Maybe. Lucien didn't look remotely apologetic. But then I saw the way Grant looked at you in that store. The contempt, the cruelty. And I realized he didn't just steal money from dangerous people. He stole your life, your confidence, your future. So what? Lena's voice shook. You decided to play savior? White knight swooping in to rescue the poor broken girl? No. I decided you deserved better than being collateral damage in his fall. Lucian reached out and caught her wrist. Not hard, but firm enough that she couldn't pull away. I was going to destroy Grant anyway, but after I saw you, I decided to make it personal. Lena wrenched her hand free. You're insane. You keep saying that like it changes anything. It should, but it doesn't. Lucien tilted his head, studying her. You want to know the truth? The real truth? I don't think I can handle more truth. The moment I saw you crying in that parking lot, something in me recognized something in you. We're the same, Lena. We've both been stepped on, used, told we don't matter. His voice dropped lower. The difference is, I stopped letting the world dictate my worth, and I can teach you to do the same. By becoming a criminal? By becoming powerful enough that no one can hurt you again. Lena laughed, sharp and bitter. You really think power fixes everything? I think powerlessness destroys everything. Lucian moved to the bar and refilled his wine glass. I think you've spent your entire life being powerless, and it's eating you alive. You don't know anything about my life. Your mother died when you were 21. Cancer. No life insurance. You dropped out of college to pay her medical bills. Your father left when you were 12, and you haven't seen him since. Lucian's voice was flat, reciting facts. You met Grant Holloway at a coffee shop where you worked. He pursued you aggressively, made you feel special, then spent 2 years systematically convincing you that you weren't smart enough, pretty enough, ambitious enough to be with someone like him. When he got the job at the investment firm, he left you 3 days later with a text message. Lena's vision blurred. Stop! You've worked 3 jobs simultaneously for the past 18 months trying to save enough to go back to school. But every time you get close, something happens. Car breaks down. Landlord raises rent. Emergency dental work. Lucian set down his glass. You're drowning, Lena. And you've been drowning for so long you've forgotten what it feels like to breathe. Shut up. Make me. Lena crossed the distance between them before her brain caught up with her body. She shoved Lucian hard, both hands against his chest. He barely moved. You don't get to do this, she shouted. You don't get to dig into my life and then throw it in my face like you're some kind of savior. You're not saving me. You're using me. For what? I don't know, but nobody does this without wanting something. You're right. Lucien caught her wrists, holding her still. I do want something. What? You. The word hung between them like a live wire. Lena tried to pull away. Lucien held firm. I want you in my life, he said quietly. I want to watch you remember what it feels like to have power, to make choices, to not be afraid all the time. His grip loosened slightly. And yes, I want Grant Holloway to see you standing next to me Saturday night, wearing diamonds and confidence, and realize exactly what he threw away. That's sick. That's justice. It's revenge. What's the difference? Lena wrenched free. The difference is justice doesn't require you to stalk someone for 3 weeks and manipulate them into being your accessory. I'm not manipulating you. I'm offering you a choice. That's not a choice. That's coercion wrapped in expensive suits and pretty words. Lucian's jaw tightened. If you want to leave, the door is right there. My driver will take you home. You'll never hear from me again. Bullshit. I mean it. You've spent 3 weeks tracking my life and you expect me to believe you'll just let me walk away? Yes? The certainty in his voice made Lena's breath catch. But, Lucien continued, if you stay, if you choose to stay, then Saturday night, you're with me, all the way. No backing out, no second guessing. Lena's heart hammered. And after Saturday? After Saturday, we see what happens. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Lena looked at the door, looked at Lucien, looked at her own hand, still shaking. She thought about her apartment, her cafe job, the endless cycle of barely surviving. She thought about Grant's face in that supermarket, the humiliation, the casual cruelty. And she thought about Lucien's promise. Saturday night, he's going to regret every word he's ever said to you. If I do this, Lena said slowly, I need ground rules. Lucien's expression didn't change. Name them. No more stalking, no more monitoring my phone or my emails or whatever the hell else you've been doing. Agreed. I want the truth. Always. Even when it's ugly. Done. And if I tell you to back off, you back off. No arguments. Lucian smiled slightly. That one I can't promise. Why not? Because if you're in danger, I'm not going to back off just because you ask nicely. But I can promise to listen, to explain, to treat you like an equal even when I disagree with you. Lena studied his face, looking for the lie. She didn't find one. Fine, she said. Saturday. I'll go with you. But after that, we renegotiate. After that, Lucien agreed. Everything changes anyway. The way he said it made Lena's skin prickle. What does that mean? It means Grant's arrest is just the beginning. The FBI has enough evidence to dismantle his entire firm. By Sunday morning, everyone who enabled him, everyone who looked the other way, everyone who profited from his schemes, they're all going down. Lucian's eyes gleamed. And you're going to watch it happen. Why do you care so much about me watching? Because you deserve to see it. You deserve to know that the man who made you feel worthless is actually worth less than the dirt under your shoes. Lena's throat tightened. And what do you get out of it? Lucien moved closer, and this time when he touched her face, Lena didn't pull away. I get to see you smile again, he said quietly. The real smile, not the fake one you used to survive. That's all? That's everything. Lena closed her eyes, felt his thumb trace her cheekbone, felt the warmth of his body inches from hers. This was insane. This was dangerous. This was probably going to destroy her in ways Grant never could. But when Lena opened her eyes and looked at Lucien Moretti, criminal, stalker, probably a legitimate psychopath, she saw something she hadn't seen in any other person in her entire life. She saw someone who looked at her like she was worth burning the world for. Okay, she whispered. Lucian's smile was devastating. Good, he said. Now let's get you ready for Saturday night. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Lucien sent people to Lena's apartment, not to threaten or intimidate, but to measure her for a dress. Professional tailors with fabric swatches and measuring tapes, treating her like she was someone who mattered. The dress arrived Friday afternoon, midnight blue silk that caught the light like water. A diamond necklace came with it. Real diamonds. Lena Googled the designer and nearly threw up when she saw the price. Her phone buzzed. Don't look up the cost. It'll just make you nervous. The dress is yours. The jewelry is borrowed. Return the jewelry. Sunday. Keep the dress forever. L. Lena stared at the message. This is too much, she typed. It's not enough. Tomorrow night, you're going to walk into that ballroom and every single person is going to know you belong there. I don't belong there. You do now. Lena set the phone down and looked at herself in the cracked mirror hanging on her bathroom door. Same face, same body, same life. But tomorrow night, she'd be someone different. Tomorrow night, she'd be Lucien Moretti's date to Grant Holloway's engagement party. And the world was going to watch it burn. Saturday arrived with cold sunshine and a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Lena woke up at 6 a.m. even though she didn't need to be ready until 7 that night. She couldn't eat, couldn't focus, just paced her tiny apartment wearing a path in the already worn carpet. At noon, her phone buzzed. Breathe, you're going to be perfect. Car arrives at 7. I'll meet you there. L. Why aren't you picking me up? Because I need to handle some things first. And because when you walk into that ballroom, I want everyone to see you arrive on your own power. Lena's hands shook. I don't know if I can do this. The response took longer this time. Yes, you can. You've survived everything else. This is just one more night. This is different. Yes, this time you're not alone. Lena closed her eyes and tried to believe him. The car arrived exactly at 7. Different driver again. Woman this time, dark suit, earpiece, the kind of person who looked like she could kill someone with her bare hands and not break a sweat. Ms. Vale, she said, I'm Elena. I'll be your security tonight. Security? Lena's voice came out strangled. Why do I need security? Elena's expression didn't change. Mr. Moretti's orders. You're with him now. That means you're protected. Lena climbed into the car, feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. The drive took 30 minutes. Lena watched the city lights blur past, her reflection ghost-like in the window. The midnight blue dress fit perfectly. The borrowed diamonds felt like ice against her throat. She looked expensive. She looked powerful. She looked like someone Grant Holloway might actually notice. The thought made her sick. The car pulled up to the Carmichael Hotel, all gleaming glass and gold fixtures and a red carpet leading to the entrance. Actual photographers lined the carpet. Actual celebrities walked past in gowns that cost more than Lena's yearly salary. This was Grant's world, the world he'd always belonged to, the world he'd made clear Lena would never be part of. Elena opened her door. "Head up," she said quietly. "Shoulders back. You belong here." Lena stepped out onto the red carpet. Camera flashes exploded. Reporters shouted questions she didn't understand. Elena guided her forward with a hand at her elbow, protective, not controlling. And then Lena was inside. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, white flowers everywhere, a string quartet playing something classical and perfect. Guests in tuxedos and evening gowns, champagne glasses in hand, laughing and networking like this was just another Saturday night. Lena's hands shook. "Breathe," Elena murmured. Lena breathed. And then she saw Grant. He stood near the bar with Vanessa, both of them holding court with a cluster of people who looked like they'd stepped out of a Forbes magazine photo shoot. Grant was laughing at something someone said, his hand possessive on Vanessa's waist. He looked happy. He looked successful. He looked like someone who'd never made a mistake in his entire life. Lena's vision blurred with rage so pure it felt like fire in her veins. Then someone touched her elbow. She turned. Lucian Moretti stood beside her in a black tuxedo that probably cost more than her car. His hair was perfectly styled, his silver eyes burned, and when he looked at her, the entire ballroom seemed to fall away. "You're breathtaking," he said quietly. Lena couldn't speak. Lucien offered his arm. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Neither am I." He smiled. "Let's do it anyway." Lena took his arm, and together they walked into the ballroom. The reaction was immediate. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Someone dropped a champagne glass, and it shattered against the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot. Because everyone knew who Lucian Moretti was, and everyone knew that Lucian Moretti didn't attend social functions like this unless he wanted something. Grant saw them. His face went white. Vanessa looked between Lena and Lucian with confusion turning rapidly to alarm. "Lena?" Grant's voice cracked. "What are you? Who is Grant?" Lucian's voice was perfectly pleasant. He extended his free hand. "Congratulations on your engagement." Grant stared at Lucian's hand like it was a snake. "You're Lucian Moretti," he whispered. "I am, and you're Grant Holloway. I believe we have mutual business interests." The color drained from Grant's face entirely. Vanessa looked between them, her perfect smile faltering. "Grant? Who is this?" "A concerned investor," Lucien said smoothly. "I wanted to personally wish you both well." He pulled Lena closer against his side. "You know Lena, of course." Grant's eyes locked on Lena, on the dress, the diamonds, the way she stood next to Lucien like she belonged there. "What the hell is this?" Grant hissed. "A party," Lena said, her voice steadier than she'd expected. "You invited me, remember? I didn't think you'd actually—" Grant stopped, started again. "How do you know Lucien Moretti?" "We're together," Lucien said simply. The words echoed through the ballroom like thunder. Grant's jaw worked. "Together." "Yes." "You and—" Grant looked at Lena. "You and him? Is that so hard to believe?" Lena asked. "Yes. You were—" Grant caught himself. "This is insane." "Is it?" Lucien's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Lena is remarkable, intelligent, resilient, beautiful. I'm surprised it took someone this long to notice." Vanessa's expression had gone from confused to coldly calculating. "Lucien Moretti, I've heard that name. You're in, what was it? Import-export, among other things." "Other things," Vanessa repeated. She looked at Grant. "What kind of other things?" Grant's face was gray. "Van, let's just—" "What kind of other things?" Vanessa asked again, louder. The ballroom had gone silent. Everyone was watching now. Lucian smiled, the kind of things that require careful attention to legal compliance, which is why I was so disappointed to discover that your fiancé's firm has been less than careful with certain investments. Grant's hands clenched into fists. I don't know what you're talking about. No? Lucien tilted his head. Then perhaps we should discuss it, privately. I'm not going anywhere with you. Grant! Lucian's voice went cold. That wasn't a request. And then the ballroom doors burst open. FBI agents flooded in, weapons drawn, voices shouting commands that turned the elegant party into chaos in seconds. Guests screamed. Champagne glasses shattered. Security tried to intervene and were forced back by armed federal agents. And through it all, Lucien stood perfectly still, holding Lena against his side, calm as a man watching a sunset. Grant Holloway! An agent pushed through the crowd. You're under arrest for money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. Grant's face went from gray to green. This is a mistake. I haven't. You have the right to remain silent. The agent yanked Grant's hands behind his back. Handcuffs clicked into place. Vanessa backed away, horror on her face. Grant? What is this? What did you do? I didn't do anything, Grant shouted. This is... His eyes locked on Lucien. This is you. You set me up. Lucien's expression didn't change. I simply provided the FBI with evidence of your crimes. What they chose to do with that evidence is their business. You bastard! Grant lunged forward. The agents yanked him back. You can't... This isn't... His eyes found Lena. And in that moment, Lena saw the exact second Grant Holloway realized what had happened. Not just that he'd been arrested, but that she, the woman he'd humiliated, dismissed, treated like trash, was standing beside the man who'd orchestrated his destruction. You, Grant whispered, you did this. You brought him here. Lena met his gaze steadily. No, she said quietly. You did this. I just watched. The agents dragged Grant toward the door. He fought them, screaming obscenities that echoed through the ballroom. Vanessa stood frozen, mascara running down her face, staring at the ruins of her engagement party. And Lena felt nothing. No satisfaction. No joy. No vindication. Just a cold, empty numbness where all her anger used to be. Lucian's hand tightened on her waist. Let's go, he murmured. Lena let him guide her through the chaos, past the staring guests and the FBI agents, and the shattered champagne glasses littering the marble floor. They walked out into the night. The air was cold, clear. The sky overhead was full of stars. Elena waited by the car, door already open. Lena climbed inside. Lucien slid in beside her. The door closed, shutting out the noise and chaos. And then Lena started shaking, not crying, just shaking, like her body didn't know what to do with everything that had just happened. Lucien pulled her against his chest. She should have pushed him away, should have demanded answers, explanations, something. Instead, she buried her face in his shoulder and tried to remember how to breathe. That was the point of no return, Lucien said quietly. You understand that, don't you? There's no going back from this. Lena nodded against his chest. Are you okay? Lena pulled back enough to look at him. His silver eyes were soft in the dim light, concerned in a way that made her chest ache. I don't know, she whispered. Ask me tomorrow. Lucien's hand came up to cup her face. Tomorrow, everything changes. You keep saying that, because it's true. Lena closed her eyes. Tomorrow, Grant Holloway would be in federal custody. Tomorrow, his entire life would be dismantled piece by piece. Tomorrow, the world would know exactly what kind of man he really was. And Lena would have to figure out what kind of woman she'd become by standing beside the man who'd made it all happen. But tonight, she let Lucien hold her while the car carried them away from the wreckage, and she tried not to think about the fact that she'd just crossed a line she could never uncross. The car drove for a long time. Lena didn't ask where they were going, didn't care. She just sat there in Lucien's arms, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her cheek. Finally, the car stopped. Elena opened the door. They were at the estate, Lucien's fortress hidden in the countryside. Come inside, Lucien said softly. You shouldn't be alone tonight. Lena looked at him. Is that what this is? You being considerate? It's me not wanting you to go back to that empty apartment and drown in whatever you're feeling right now. You don't know what I'm feeling. No, but I know what I'd be feeling if I were you. Lucien's thumb traced her cheekbone. And I know you shouldn't be alone with it. Lena should refuse, should demand to go home, should put distance between herself and this man who'd just proven exactly how dangerous he was. Instead, she let him help her out of the car. The estate was dark, except for lights burning in the windows. They walked inside together, and Lucien led her to a room she hadn't seen before, a library, all dark wood and leather furniture, and shelves stretching to the ceiling. A fire burned in the massive fireplace. Someone, one of Lucien's invisible staff, had left wine and glasses on a side table. Lucien poured 2 glasses and handed her one. Lena drank without tasting it. Say something, Lucien said quietly. What do you want me to say? Anything. Yell at me. Tell me I'm a monster. Tell me you hate me. He set down his glass. Just don't sit there drowning. Lena looked at him, really looked. At the scars on his hands, the cold calculation in his eyes that never quite disappeared even when he was being gentle. The way he held himself like violence was always one breath away. I should hate you, she said, but you don't. I don't know what I feel. Then feel it, all of it. Don't hide. Lena laughed, sharp and bitter. You want me to feel it? Fine. I feel terrified. I feel powerful. I feel sick. I feel vindicated and empty and exhilarated all at the same time. Her voice rose. You just destroyed a man's entire life in front of hundreds of people, and I stood there and watched, and I didn't stop you. What does that make me? Human. That's not an answer. It's the only answer. Lucien moved closer. Grant Holloway was a criminal who hurt people, including you. He deserved what happened tonight. Maybe, but did I deserve to be the weapon you used against him? Lucien's jaw tightened. You're not a weapon. Then what am I? You're the woman I... He stopped, started again. You're someone who matters. To you. Yes? Why? Lena demanded. Why do I matter to you? We barely know each other. You stalked me, manipulated me, used me as bait to draw Grant out. And now you're standing here acting like I'm something precious when we both know I'm just another piece on your chessboard. Lucien crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. His hands came up to frame her face, forcing her to look at him. You want to know why you matter? His voice was low, dangerous, vibrating with something that made Lena's breath catch. Because when I saw you crying in that parking lot, I saw myself. I saw someone the world had beaten down and told wasn't worth saving. And I decided right then that I was going to prove the world wrong. That's not a reason. That's a savior complex. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just selfish enough to want to keep the first person in years who looked at me like I was human instead of a monster. Lena's breath caught. I don't look at you like you're human. I look at you like you terrify me. Same thing. Lucien's thumb brushed her lower lip. Fear means you see me clearly, and you're still here. I don't know why I'm still here. Yes, you do. And the terrible thing was, Lena did know. She was here because Lucien Moretti saw her. Really saw her. Not the broken girl Grant had left behind, not the struggling waitress counting coins, but someone worth protecting, worth avenging, worth standing beside while the world burned. It was twisted and wrong and probably going to destroy her. But it was also the first time in her entire life that someone had looked at her like she mattered more than anything else in the world. This is insane, she whispered. You keep saying that, because it keeps being true. Lucien smiled. Then let's be insane together. And before Lena could respond, before she could think or rationalize or run, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. Wasn't tentative. It was possessive and desperate and full of 3 weeks of obsession finally unleashed. Lena should have pushed him away. Instead, she kissed him back, her hands fisted in his shirt, his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her against him hard enough that she could feel every line of his body through the thin silk of her dress. The kiss deepened. Lena tasted wine and danger and something dark she couldn't name. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucien pressed his forehead against hers. Stay tonight, he whispered. Just tonight. No expectations, no strings, Just don't go back to that apartment alone. Lena should say no. Should demand he take her home. Should put distance between herself and this man who'd just proven exactly how dangerous he was. Instead, she heard herself say, "Okay." Lucien's arms tightened around her, and Lena realized with perfect, terrifying clarity she'd just crossed the point of no return. There was no going back to her old life. No pretending tonight hadn't happened. No walking away from Lucien Moretti. She'd made her choice, and tomorrow she'd have to live with it. Lena woke up alone. The bed was enormous, sheets like silk against her skin, morning light filtering through curtains she didn't remember closing. For one disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it crashed back. The party. Grant's arrest. The kiss. Lucien's arms around her while she fell apart. She sat up too fast, head spinning. She was still wearing the midnight blue dress, now wrinkled and twisted around her body. The borrowed diamonds were gone from her throat. Someone had removed them while she slept. The thought made her skin crawl. Lena swung her legs out of bed and stood on shaking legs. The room was tastefully decorated, guest bedroom, neutral colors, and expensive furniture. Not Lucien's room. He'd kept that boundary at least. She found her shoes beside the bed and slipped them on, then made her way to the door. The hallway outside was quiet. Morning sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating oil paintings that probably cost more than most people's houses. Lena followed the sound of voices, her footsteps silent on thick carpet. The voices led her to a study, door slightly ajar, Lucien's voice drifting out. "I don't care what he's offering. The answer is no." A pause. Someone responding on the other end of a phone call. "Because Grant Holloway is a federal problem now, and I don't get involved with federal problems after they're already in custody." Lucien's voice was cold, businessman flat. "If Victor wants to make a move on Holloway's assets, he can do it through legitimate channels like everyone else." Lena's hand froze on the doorframe. Victor. The name meant nothing to her, but the way Lucien said it, like he was discussing a particularly persistent pest, made her stomach turn. "Tell Victor that if he touches anything connected to the Holloway investigation, I'll consider it a personal insult." A pause. "Yes, I'm aware of the implications. That's why I'm saying it." Lena pushed the door open. Lucien stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, wearing the same tuxedo pants from last night, but no shirt. His back was a landscape of scars, some old and white, some newer and still pink. Knife wounds, bullet wounds, things Lena didn't want to identify. He turned when he heard the door, and his expression shifted from cold calculation to something softer. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, then ended the call without waiting for a response. "You're awake," he said. Lena stayed in the doorway. "Who's Victor?" Lucien set his phone down on the desk. "No one you need to worry about." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting right now." He moved toward her, and Lena took an instinctive step back. Lucien stopped. "How did you sleep?" "I don't remember falling asleep." "You passed out around 2 a.m. I carried you upstairs." "And undressed me?" "I removed the necklace, that's all." Lucien's eyes were steady on hers. "I'm not going to touch you without permission, Lena, no matter what you might think of me." Lena wrapped her arms around herself. The dress felt wrong now, costume from a play she hadn't auditioned for. "I need to go home." "Why?" "Because I need to think, process, figure out what the hell I just did." "You watched a criminal get arrested. I watched you destroy someone's life using me as bait." Lucien's jaw tightened. "Is that what you think happened?" "Isn't it?" "No." He crossed to the desk and picked up a tablet, tapping it a few times before handing it to her. "That's what happened." Lena looked at the screen. News articles. Headlines screaming about Grant Holloway's arrest, about the FBI investigation into his firm, about money laundering and fraud and conspiracy charges. She scrolled down. More articles. These ones older. Dating back months. Stories about Grant's firm, about suspicious transactions, about offshore accounts and shell companies. "The FBI has been investigating Grant for 8 months, Lucien said quietly. "I didn't manufacture evidence. I didn't frame him. I simply provided additional documentation that helped them build an airtight case. Documentation you obtained illegally. Documentation that proves Grant Holloway stole millions from investors, including elderly people who trusted him with their retirement funds. Lucian's voice went hard. Including my family's business interests, yes, but also including people who had nothing to do with my world. Lena set the tablet down. You're still acting like you did this for justice. I did it for justice and revenge. They're not mutually exclusive. And me? Where do I fit into your revenge scheme? Lucien moved closer, and this time Lena didn't back away. You were never part of the scheme. You were the reason I made it personal. That doesn't make it better. I know. Lucien's hand came up to cup her face. But it's the truth. Grant was going down regardless. I just made sure you got to see it happen. Lena's eyes burned. You used me. I gave you a choice. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Lucien's thumb brushed her cheekbone. You could have walked away. Multiple times. You chose to stay. Because you manipulated me into thinking I wanted this. Did I? His eyes searched hers. Or did I just give you permission to want something you'd been too afraid to admit you wanted? Lena jerked away from his touch. Don't twist this around. Don't make it sound like I... Her phone rang. She'd left it in the bedroom. The sound was muffled but persistent, echoing through the quiet house. Lena turned and ran. She found it on the nightstand, screen lit up with an unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello? Is this Lena Vale? Male voice, professional, unfamiliar. Yes. Who is this? Agent Marcus Chen, FBI. I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with Grant Holloway and Lucien Moretti. Lena's blood went cold. I'm not. We have footage of you attending Mr. Holloway's engagement party last night in the company of Mr. Moretti. We'd like to speak with you about the nature of that relationship. I didn't do anything illegal. I'm not suggesting you did, but we need to understand the timeline of how you became involved with Mr. Moretti, particularly in relation to Mr. Holloway's arrest. Lena looked up. Lucien stood in the doorway, watching her with unreadable eyes. I need to speak with a lawyer, Lena said. That's your right. But Miss Vale, I should warn you, if you're working with Lucien Moretti in any capacity, you're putting yourself in serious danger. Mr. Moretti is currently under investigation for... Lena ended the call. Her hand shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. What did they say? Lucien asked quietly. They want to question me. About you. About last night. Lena's voice cracked. They said you're under investigation. I'm always under investigation. That's not news. That's not... Lena's breath came too fast. You told me you were a businessman, that what you do is legal. I told you I operate in spaces the law chooses to ignore. That's not the same as being legal. So you lied. I omitted details. There's a difference. Not to me. Lena threw the phone onto the bed. The FBI thinks I'm working with you. They think I'm part of whatever the hell you actually do. You're not, and I'll make sure they know that. How? By having them arrested too? By destroying their lives like you destroyed Grant's? Lucien's expression went cold. Grant destroyed his own life by being a thief and a criminal. I just made sure he faced consequences. And what about my consequences? Lena's voice rose. What happens when the FBI decides I'm a liability? When they arrest me for obstruction or conspiracy or whatever else they can charge me with? That won't happen. You don't know that. I do. Because I have lawyers who specialize in making problems like this disappear. Lucien moved toward her. Lena, listen to me. You're not in danger from law enforcement. I'll handle it. Like you handled Grant? Exactly like I handled Grant. The casual certainty in his voice made Lena want to scream. I need to leave, she said. Right now. I need to go home and I need you to stay away from me. Lucien's jaw tightened. That's not going to happen. Excuse me? You're in this now. Whether you like it or not, the FBI knows you were with me last night. If I pull back, if I let you walk away unprotected, they'll assume you're willing to cooperate against me, and that makes you a target. A target for who? For people who don't want me investigated. Lucien's voice was flat. For people who will hurt you to send me a message. Lena's vision blurred. This is insane. This is completely insane. Welcome to my world. I don't want to be in your world. Too late. Lena grabbed her shoes and pushed past him, heading for the stairs. Lucien followed. Where are you going? He called after her. Home. You don't have a home anymore. Lena froze on the stairs. Turned. What? Lucien stood at the top of the staircase, backlit by morning sun, looking like some kind of dark angel. Your apartment was broken into last night, around 3 a.m. Someone tossed the place looking for something. The world tilted. How do you know that? Because I have people watching your building. They called me when it happened. You have people watching my building, Lena repeated slowly. Without my permission. To keep you safe. That's not keeping me safe, that's stalking. Call it whatever you want, but the fact remains someone knows you're connected to me now, and they came looking for leverage. Lena's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the stairs, dress pooling around her. Who? She whispered. I don't know yet, but I will. Lucien descended the stairs slowly. Which is why you're staying here until I figure it out. You can't just decide that. I already have. Lena looked up at him. At this man who'd entered her life like a hurricane and destroyed everything she thought she knew about safety and choice and control. I hate you, she said. No, you don't. I should. But you don't. Lena closed her eyes. What do you want from me, Lucien? Really? I want you safe. I want you alive. And I want you to stop fighting me when I'm trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From problems you created? From problems that existed long before you met me. Lucien sat down beside her on the stairs. Grant Holloway was always going to get arrested. The FBI was always going to investigate. And the people Grant was working with, the people whose money he was laundering, they were always going to come looking for anyone connected to the investigation. So this is all Grant's fault? Grant's fault. My fault. The fault of every criminal enterprise that's operated in this city for the last 50 years. Lucien's voice was tired. But yes, I made it worse by involving you. I made you visible to people who should never have known you existed. Then fix it. I'm trying. Try harder. Lucien laughed, sharp and bitter. You think I'm not? You think I didn't spend all night making calls, calling in favors, putting pressure on everyone I know to make sure you're protected? I didn't ask for that. You didn't have to ask. I decided you mattered, and that means I protect you whether you want it or not. Lena turned to look at him, really look, at the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands kept flexing like he was fighting the urge to reach for her. This is what your life is like, she said quietly. Constant danger, constant threats, always looking over your shoulder. Yes. And you want me to be part of that. I want you to be safe from it. But yes, being safe means being close to me right now. Lena's phone rang again. She pulled it from the pocket of her dress. When had she grabbed it? And looked at the screen. Unknown number, different from before. She answered. Ms. Vale? Different voice this time. Older. Accented. My name is Victor Soren. I believe we should meet. Lena's blood turned to ice. Lucien's expression went deadly. He grabbed the phone from her hand. If you contact her again, I will personally come to whatever hole you're hiding in and put a bullet in your skull. Victor's laugh was low and dangerous. Such threats, Lucien. And over a woman you've known for what? A week? 2? Stay away from her. Or what? You'll wage war? Over a waitress? Victor's voice hardened. Grant Holloway owed me money. Money your little stunt with the FBI has now made very difficult to recover. I think Ms. Vale might be able to help me recoup my losses. She doesn't know anything about your arrangement with Grant. Then she has nothing to fear from a simple conversation. There's nothing simple about anything you do, Victor. True. But I'm a reasonable man. I just want what I'm owed. A pause. Tell you what, you give me what Holloway stole and I'll forget the girl even exists. I don't have what Holloway stole. The FBI seized all his assets. Then I suggest you find a way to recover them. You have 48 hours. Victor's voice went cold. After that, Ms. Vale becomes collateral for your failure to keep your people in line. The call ended. Lucien stood slowly, phone still gripped in his white-knuckled hand. Who is Victor Soren? Lena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Someone very dangerous. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters right now. Lucien turned to face her. Victor runs a rival organization, bigger than mine, more violent. Grant was laundering money for both of us, and when I brought him down, Victor lost access to millions. And now he wants that money back. Yes. And if he doesn't get it? Lucian's expression was answer enough. Lena stood on shaking legs. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. I'm not part of this. I'm just a waitress. I don't know anything about money laundering or criminal organizations or... I know. Then why is this happening? Because Victor knows the fastest way to hurt me is through you. Lucian reached for her, but Lena jerked away. Lena, listen to me. No, you listen to me. Lena's voice echoed through the house. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't ask to be kidnapped or threatened or used as leverage in your gang war or whatever the hell this is. I know. So fix it. Make this go away. I'm trying. Not hard enough. Lena's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. I want my life back. My boring, safe, predictable life where the worst thing that happened was my ex being an asshole in a grocery store. That life is gone. Because of you. Because of Grant, Lucy shouted. Because he chose to work with dangerous people and then got caught. Because he humiliated you in a public place where anyone could see, including me. Because the moment I saw you, everything changed. The words hung in the air like smoke. Lena stared at him. What? Lucian's hands clenched into fists. The moment I saw you in that parking lot, crying over a broken car, while the man who destroyed you paraded his new life in front of you, I decided you were mine to protect, mine to avenge. Mine. I'm not yours. Yes, you are. Lucien moved closer, and this time Lena couldn't make herself back away. You've been mine since the second you got in my car. Since you looked at me like I was dangerous but got in anyway. Since you let me kiss you last night and kissed me back like you were drowning and I was air. That was a mistake. Maybe. But it happened. And now Victor knows you matter to me, which means you're in danger until I eliminate the threat. Eliminate, Lena repeated. You mean kill. I mean remove from the equation, however that needs to happen. Lena's stomach turned. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about survival. Lucian grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. Victor Soren is not a reasonable man. He's not someone you can negotiate with or bribe or scare away. The only language he understands is violence. And if I don't give him what he wants or remove him as a threat, he will hurt you to prove a point. Then give him what he wants. I can't. The FBI has everything. It's locked in evidence. Even if I could access it, stealing from federal custody would bring down heat I can't afford right now. So I'm just collateral damage? No. Lucien's grip tightened. You're the only thing that matters, which is why you're staying here, under my protection, until Victor is dealt with. I don't want your protection. Too bad. You have it anyway. Lena wrenched free. You can't just keep me here. Watch me. That's kidnapping. Call the police. Lucian's smile was sharp. Tell them Lucien Moretti is holding you against your will. See how fast they show up to rescue you from a known crime lord. The words hit like a slap. Lena backed away from him, heart hammering. You're insane. You're actually insane. I'm practical. Lucien followed her step for step. And I'm not letting you walk out of this house and straight into Victor's hands. So what? I'm your prisoner now? You're my responsibility. I didn't ask to be your responsibility. You got in the car! The shout echoed through the house. They stood facing each other in the marble hallway, both breathing hard, the morning sun streaming through the windows, illuminating the ruins of whatever trust had existed between them. Lena's phone rang again. This time she recognized the number. Her manager at the cafe. She answered. Lena? Thank God. Are you okay? I'm fine. Why? Because someone came by this morning asking for you. Big guy, scary-looking, Russian accent, said he needed to talk to you about a mutual friend. Her manager's voice shook. Lena, he scared the hell out of the morning shift. What's going on? Lena closed her eyes. I don't know. Are you in trouble? I don't know. Do you need help? Lena looked at Lucien, at this man who'd inserted himself into her life and turned it into a war zone. I don't know, she whispered. Listen, I like you, but I can't have guys like that coming around the cafe. It's bad for business, and it's scaring the other employees. Her manager sighed. I'm sorry, but until you get whatever this is sorted out, I can't have you on the schedule. Are you firing me? I'm putting you on unpaid leave until this blows over. The call ended. Lena stood there holding her phone, the last tether to her normal life severed. No apartment, no job, no safety. Just Lucian Moretti and his promises of protection that felt more like chains. I'm sorry, Lucian said quietly. Lena laughed. It came out broken. For which part? Stalking me? Using me? Putting a target on my back? Getting me fired? All of it. That doesn't help. I know. Lena sank down onto the floor, back against the wall, still wearing that ridiculous dress. She felt like a puppet with cut strings. Lucien sat down beside her. I'll make this right, he said. How? I don't know yet, but I will. You keep saying that. Because I mean it. Lucien's hand found hers. His palm was warm, scarred, familiar in a way that made her chest ache. I got you into this mess. I'll get you out. And if you can't, then I'll die trying. The casual certainty in his voice made Lena's breath catch. Why? She asked. Why do you care this much about someone you barely know? Lucien was quiet for a long time. Then, because when I look at you, I see someone worth saving, and I haven't seen that in a very long time. Lena turned her head to look at him. I'm not worth starting a war over. That's not your decision to make. It should be. Maybe. But it's not. Lucien's thumb brushed across her knuckles. Victor made this personal when he threatened you. Now I have to respond. That's how this world works. I hate your world. I know, but you're in it now. He stood, pulling her up with him. Come on. You need to eat something. Then we need to talk strategy. Strategy for what? For surviving the next 48 hours. Lena let him lead her to the kitchen, massive, professional grade, spotlessly clean. Someone had left breakfast on the counter. Fresh fruit, pastries, coffee that smelled like heaven. Lena couldn't imagine eating any of it. Sit, Lucien ordered. She sat. He poured coffee, added cream the way she liked it, even though she'd never told him her preference. Because of course he knew. He knew everything about her. The thought made her skin crawl. We need to establish some ground rules, Lucien said, sitting across from her. First, you don't leave this property without me or one of my security team. Second, you don't answer calls from numbers you don't recognize. Third, no, Lena interrupted. Lucien blinked. No? No ground rules, no strategy sessions, no pretending this is normal. Lena set down her coffee cup. I want the truth, all of it. No more omissions, no more half answers. What do you want to know? Everything. Who you really are, what you actually do, how many people you've killed, what Victor wants. What happens if you can't give it to him? She leaned forward. And I want to know why you really approached me in that parking lot. Lucien's expression went carefully blank. I told you. You told me you saw me and decided I was worth saving. But that's not the whole truth, is it? There's something else. Something you're not telling me. Lucien's jaw tightened. Tell me, Lena demanded. You won't like it. I already don't like any of this. Tell me anyway. Lucien stood and walked to the window, looking out over the grounds. When he spoke, his voice was flat, emotionless. Grant Holloway wasn't just laundering money for Victor and my family. He was skimming, taking extra off the top and hiding it in offshore accounts we couldn't trace. Lena's stomach dropped. And I thought you might know where he hid it. The words hit like a physical blow. You thought Lena couldn't breathe. You thought I was helping him steal? At first, yes. So everything, the rescue, the car, the dress, the party, all of it was to get information out of me? At first, Lucien repeated. But then I realized you didn't know anything. You were just collateral damage from Grant's choices. And you decided to use me anyway. I decided to protect you. By making me bait! Lena stood, chair clattering backward. You used me to draw out Grant, to make him nervous, to see if he'd contact me about the missing money. Yes. The admission hung in the air. Lena's vision went red. Get away from me. Lena, get the fuck away from me. She ran, out of the kitchen, through the hallway toward the front door. She didn't care that she was still in an evening dress. Didn't care that she had no car, no phone, no way to get anywhere. She just needed to get away from Lucien Moretti and his lies. She reached the door and yanked it open. A man stood on the other side, tall, built like a tank. Slavic features, cold eyes that looked at her like she was meat. "Ms. Vale," he said in a thick Russian accent. "Mr. Sorin would like a word." Lena tried to slam the door. The man caught it easily, pushing it back open with one massive hand. Then Lucien was there, moving faster than Lena had ever seen him move. He grabbed Lena and shoved her behind him, his body a wall between her and the Russian. "Victor sent you to my house," Lucien said, voice deadly quiet. "Mr. Sorin thought a personal touch might expedite matters. Tell Victor that coming to my home was a mistake." The Russian smiled. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it was a message." His eyes found Lena. A very clear message. Lucian's hand moved to the small of his back. When it came away, he was holding a gun. "Leave. Now." The Russian raised his hands in mock surrender. "No need for violence. I'm simply here to deliver an invitation. Mr. Sorin requests Miss Vale's presence at dinner tonight, 8 p.m. He'll send a car." "She's not going anywhere with Victor." "That would be unfortunate. Mr. Sorin doesn't handle rejection well." "Neither do I." The Russian looked at Lena again, and his smile widened. "Pretty thing. Such a shame to waste it over missing money." Lucian pulled the trigger. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet buried itself in the door frame 2 inches from the Russian's head. The Russian didn't even flinch. "Mr. Sorin will expect her at 8, he said calmly. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into a black SUV that had been waiting at the end of the driveway. Lucien slammed the door and engaged 3 different locks. Lena stood frozen, ears ringing, staring at the bullet hole in the expensive wood. "That," Lucien said quietly, "is the world you're in now." Lena's legs gave out. She collapsed right there in the hallway, the reality of it all finally crashing down. She was trapped in a war between criminals. She had no home, no job, no safety. And the man who'd promised to protect her had been lying to her from the very beginning. Lucien knelt beside her. "Lena, don't touch me." His hands hovered, then dropped. "I'm sorry." "No, you're not. You'd do it all again if you had to." Lucien was quiet. Then, "Yes." At least he was being honest now. Lena looked up at him through tears she couldn't stop. "What happens at 8 p.m.? Nothing. You're not going. And if Victor comes here anyway? Then we have a war. Over me. Over money I don't have and information I don't know. Over you," Lucien corrected. "The money is secondary." "I don't believe you." "I don't care." Lucien stood and offered her his hand. "Come on. I need to make some calls. And you need to get out of that dress and into something you can run in." "Run from what?" "From whatever happens next." Lena took his hand. Not because she trusted him, not because she forgave him, but because she was trapped, and he was the only thing standing between her and Victor Sorin's cold-eyed messenger. And as Lucien pulled her to her feet, Lena realized with perfect, terrible clarity she'd stopped being Lena Vale, struggling waitress with dreams of something better. Now she was just another piece on Lucien Moretti's chessboard, and the game had just turned deadly. Lucien's estate transformed into a fortress in under 2 hours. Lena watched from the upstairs window as armed men arrived in unmarked vehicles, spreading through the property like shadows solidifying into human form. Some took positions along the perimeter wall. Others disappeared into the woods surrounding the estate. 2 stationed themselves at the front gate, assault rifles held with casual competence. She changed out of the ruined evening dress into clothes someone had left in her room, jeans that fit too well, a black sweater, boots designed for running. Everything was her size. Everything was exactly what she would have chosen if she'd had the choice. Because Lucien knew. He always knew. The thought made her want to scream. A knock on the door. Elena, the woman who'd driven her to the party, entered without waiting for permission. "Mr. Moretti wants you downstairs," she said. "And if I refuse?" Elena's expression didn't change. "He wants you downstairs." Lena followed her through hallways she didn't recognize to a room she'd never seen. all screens and computers and maps spread across a massive table. A war room. That's what this was. An actual war room. Lucien stood at the center, surrounded by men who looked like they'd killed people before breakfast. He was dressed differently now, black tactical pants, black shirt, shoulder holster visible beneath his arm. His hair was pulled back, highlighting the sharp angles of his face. He looked like what he was. A predator. When he saw Lena, something in his expression softened for just a second. Then the mask was back. "Come here," he said. It wasn't a request. Lena crossed to him, acutely aware of every pair of eyes tracking her movement. These men knew what she was. Weakness. Liability. The thing their boss would die protecting. Lucien gestured to the map spread across the table. Victor owns a restaurant downtown. Ostensibly legitimate, actually a front for his operation. That's where he'll expect you to meet him at 8. "I'm not going." "I know, but he doesn't know that yet." Lucien tapped a location on the map. "He'll send a car here at 7:30. When you don't come out, he'll assume I'm preventing you from leaving. That gives us maybe an hour before he escalates." "Escalates how?" "Best case, he sends more men here to intimidate us into compliance. Worst case?" Lucien's jaw tightened. He decides to make an example. One of the men spoke up, older, scarred, with the bearing of someone who'd seen combat. "We should move first, hit him before he hits us." "No," Lucien said flatly. "If we strike first, we give him justification to call in allies. This needs to be defensive. Victor has to be the aggressor on record." "What record?" Lena asked. "You're all criminals. Who's keeping records?" The room went silent. Lucien's eyes locked on hers. "The kind of criminals we still have rules. Lines we don't cross. Victor is testing those lines by threatening you. If he crosses them, the other families will support my response. If I cross them first, I'm on my own. So I'm bait. Again. You're the reason we're all here." Lucien moved closer, voice dropping so only she could hear. "And I will burn this entire city to ash before I let Victor touch you." That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be true. A phone rang, loud in the tense silence. One of the men answered it, listened, then looked at Lucien. Gate camera just picked up the movement. 3 vehicles approaching from the East Service Road. Lucien checked his watch. "It's barely noon. He's moving faster than I expected." "That means he's confident," the older man said. "Probably has more backup than we anticipated. Or he's desperate." Lucien pulled a handgun from the holster beneath his arm, checked the magazine, racked the slide. "Either way, no one fires unless I give the order. Understood?" Nods around the room. Lucien turned to Elena. "Take Lena to the safe room." "No," Lena said. Every head in the room swiveled toward her. "No?" Lucien repeated, voice dangerously soft. "I'm not hiding while people fight over me like I'm property." Lena's hands clenched into fists. "You put me in this situation. I'm staying." "Lena, you don't get to protect me by locking me away. Not anymore." The silence stretched. Then Lucien nodded once. "Fine. But you stay with Elena. You do exactly what she says. And if I tell you to run, you run. No arguments. Deal." He looked like he wanted to argue further. Instead, he turned back to his men. "Positions. Now." The room emptied in seconds, leaving just Lucien, Elena, and Lena. Lucien moved to a weapons locker on the wall and pulled out a smaller handgun, compact, lightweight. He checked it the same way he'd checked his own, then held it out to Lena. "You know how to use this?" "No." "Safety's here. Point and pull the trigger. Don't aim for the head. Aim for center mass. Keep pulling until the threat stops moving." His eyes were hard. "And Lena? If someone gets past me and Elena, you use this. No hesitation. No mercy. Understood?" Lena took the gun. It was heavier than she'd expected, warm from Lucien's hands. "Understood," she whispered. Lucien's hand came up to cup her face. "This is going to get ugly. Stay close to Elena. Trust her like you trust me." "I don't trust you." Something flickered in his eyes, pain maybe, or regret. "Then trust that I won't let you die. That's enough for now." He kissed her, hard and desperate and tasting like goodbye. Then he was gone, moving through the house with lethal grace. Elena touched Lena's shoulder. "Come on, we need a position with sightlines and cover." They moved to a second-floor gallery overlooking the main entrance. From here, Lena could see the circular driveway, the fountain, the front gate. 3 black SUVs sat outside the gate, engines running. Men climbed out. 6, 8, 10. All armed. Jesus, Lena breathed. Could be worse, Elena said calmly. Could be 20. One of the men approached the gate intercom, pressed the button. A voice crackled through, Victor Sorin. Lucien, I think we need to talk face to face, man to man, without all this unnecessary tension. Lucien's voice came through speakers hidden throughout the house. You sent 10 armed men to my home, Victor. That's not a conversation. That's a threat. I sent security. Same as you have security. Victor's tone was pleasant, almost friendly. I simply want to discuss our mutual problem in a civilized manner. We don't have a mutual problem. We have you wanting something I can't give you. Can't? Or won't? Does it matter? A pause. Then Victor's voice turned cold. Send out the girl. She and I can have a conversation while you and I negotiate terms. No. Lucien, be reasonable. You've known Ms. Vale for what, a week? Is she really worth starting a war over? Yes. The single word echoed with finality. Victor sighed. Then I'm afraid we're at an impasse. Looks that way. Pity. I was hoping we could resolve this without bloodshed. You were hoping I'd cave to threats. I don't cave, Victor. You know this. I know you're usually smarter than to die for a woman you barely know. Then you don't know me as well as you think. Another pause. Longer this time. Then Victor's voice came through, all pretense of civility gone. Last chance, Lucien. Send her out, or I come in and take her. Try it. The intercom went dead. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then the SUVs reversed in perfect synchronization, backing up 50 yards. They're making space, Elena murmured. They're going to ram the gate. She was right. The first SUV gunned its engine and shot forward, smashing into the ornate iron gates with a screech of metal on metal. The gates held. Barely. The SUV reversed and hit it again. This time, the gates buckled. Third impact. The gates tore free from their hinges and crashed to the ground. The SUVs roared through. Here we go, Elena said, raising her weapon. The first shots came from Lucien's men positioned around the property, controlled bursts, aiming for tires and engines. The lead SUV swerved, one tire exploding, but kept coming. More gunfire. The sound was deafening even from inside the house. The SUVs split up. One peeled off toward the east wing, another toward the garage. The third, the one with the blown tire, limped toward the front entrance. Men poured out before the vehicles even stopped moving. And that's when Lena saw him. Victor Sorin. Tall, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit like he was attending a board meeting instead of a home invasion. He moved with the confidence of a man who'd never lost a fight, surrounded by bodyguards who looked like they ate bullets for breakfast. He looked up at the house, looked directly at the window where Lena stood, and smiled. He knows I'm here, Lena said. He knows you're somewhere. Elena pulled her back from the window. Stay down. Gunfire intensified, glass shattered somewhere below. Men shouted in Russian and English and languages Lena didn't recognize. Then Lucien's voice, cutting through the chaos. North entrance is breached. Fall back to secondary positions. More gunfire. Closer now. Elena's radio crackled. They're in the house. Repeat. Hostiles are in the house. Elena grabbed Lena's arm. We need to move. Now. They ran. Through hallways that had seemed elegant yesterday, and now felt like a maze designed to trap them. Behind them, Lena heard boots on marble, shouts, the crash of doors being kicked open. Elena pulled her into a side room, a library, shelves floor to ceiling, and locked the door. That won't hold them, Lena gasped. It doesn't have to, just needs to slow them down. Elena moved to the far wall and pressed something. A section of bookshelf swung open, revealing a narrow passage. Get in. What about you? I'm right behind you. Lena climbed into the passage. Elena followed, pulling the bookshelf closed just as the library door exploded inward. They moved through darkness, Elena's hand on Lena's shoulder guiding her. The passage twisted and turned, sounds of fighting echoing weirdly through the walls. Finally, they emerged into a smaller room. A panic room, Lena realized. Reinforced walls, monitors showing security camera feeds from around the property, weapons locker, supplies. Elena immediately went to the monitors. What Lena saw made her blood run cold. Victor's men were everywhere. Lucien's security was holding them back, but barely. Bodies on the ground. She couldn't tell whose side they were on. Smoke rising from something burning near the garage. And there, on one screen, Lucien, fighting 3 men at once in what looked like the main hall. He moved like violence choreographed, each movement precise and brutal. Gun in one hand, knife in the other, face spattered with blood. As Lena watched, he put a bullet through one man's knee, dropped a second with the knife, and used the third as a human shield when more gunfire erupted from the hallway. Then Victor stepped into frame. He didn't rush, didn't shout, just walked calmly into the carnage like he was touring a museum. "Lucien," he called out, "this is getting tedious." Lucien dropped the body he'd been using as cover and faced Victor directly. "Then leave." "Without what I came for? I don't think so." "The money's gone, Victor. FBI has it locked down. You're not getting it back." "I've made peace with the money, but I can't let this disrespect stand." Victor gestured around at the destruction. "You've cost me men, resources, face. That requires compensation. Name your price." "The girl." Lucien's expression went deadly. "No." "Not negotiable?" "Not even slightly." Victor sighed. "Then I suppose we do this the hard way." He pulled a gun from inside his jacket, smooth, practiced, and aimed it at Lucien's chest. Lucien didn't move, didn't flinch. "You shoot me. You start a war you can't win," he said quietly. "Every family on the East Coast will turn against you for breaking the accord. The accord says we don't kill each other over business disputes." Victor's smile was cold. "This isn't business. This is personal. You destroyed Grant Holloway, who owed me money. You're harboring the one person who might know where he hid it, and you've refused every reasonable attempt at negotiation." "Reasonable," Lucien repeated flatly. "I offered to talk. You refused. I offered to compensate you for your trouble. You refused. I even offered to simply borrow Ms. Vale for a conversation." Victor's finger tightened on the trigger. "You've left me no choice. There's always a choice. Yes, and I'm making mine." The gunshot was deafening through the monitor speakers. Lena screamed. But Lucien was already moving. He'd seen it coming somehow, had read Victor's body language or breathing or something, and threw himself sideways. The bullet missed him by inches, burying itself in the wall. Then Lucien was on Victor. They went down in a tangle of limbs and violence. Victor's bodyguards tried to intervene, but Lucien's men cut them down with precise gunfire. It devolved into chaos again, pure, brutal chaos. Lena couldn't look away. Lucien and Victor fought like animals. No technique, no finesse, just two apex predators trying to kill each other with their bare hands. Punches that broke bones. A headbutt that split Victor's eyebrow open. Lucien's knife appearing from somewhere and slashing across Victor's ribs. Victor got his hands around Lucien's throat. Lucien drove his thumbs into Victor's eyes. They separated, both bloody, both breathing hard. "Enough," Victor gasped. "Enough. You want the girl that badly?" "Yes." "Then come get her." Victor pulled something from his pocket, a phone, and pressed a button. On another monitor, Lena saw the panic room door explode inward. "No," Elena breathed. She spun, weapon rising, but the concussion from the blast had already done its work. The reinforced door hung twisted on its hinges, and through the smoke came men in tactical gear. Elena fired, dropped one, two. Then return fire caught her in the shoulder and she went down hard. Lena raised the gun Lucien had given her. Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold it. The men kept coming. She pulled the trigger. The recoil shocked her, the gun bucking in her grip. The shot went wide, burying itself in the wall. She pulled it again, and again. One of the men stumbled. She might have hit him, or he might have just tripped. She couldn't tell. Then someone grabbed her from behind. The gun clattered from her hand. She fought, kicked, screamed, bit down on an arm covered in tactical gear and tasted blood through the fabric. A hand clamped over her mouth. Everything went dark as a hood was pulled over her head. She heard Elena shouting, more gunfire, then rough hands lifting her, carrying her, the world tilting and spinning. She was dragged through what felt like hallways, doors opening and closing, outside air suddenly cold against her skin, even through the hood, a vehicle door opening. She was thrown inside, landing hard on metal flooring. The door slammed. The hood was ripped off. Lena blinked in the sudden light. She was in the back of a van. 3 men surrounded her, all armed, all watching her like she might explode. And across from her, dabbing at the cut on his ribs with a handkerchief, sat Victor Soren. "Ms. Vale," he said pleasantly. "So nice to finally meet properly." Lena lunged for him. 2 of the guards grabbed her, slammed her back against the van wall, hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. Victor tisked. Now, let's be civilized. We're just going to have a conversation. Fuck you." "Such language," Victor smiled. "I can see why Lucien likes you. You have fire. If you hurt me, he'll kill you." "Oh, I'm counting on him trying. That's rather the point." Victor leaned forward. "You see, Ms. Vale, I don't actually care about the money anymore. Grant Holloway's theft is a loss I can absorb. What I can't absorb is Lucien Moretti publicly disrespecting me and walking away unscathed. So this is about ego. This is about power, about showing every criminal organization on the Eastern Seaboard that no one, not even Lucien Moretti, crosses Victor Soren without consequences." The van lurched into motion. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. "Where are you taking me?" "Somewhere Lucien will have to come find you. Somewhere public enough that when he makes his move, everyone will see." Victor's smile widened. "I'm going to give him a choice, you or his empire. One or the other, not both." "He'll choose me." "I know, that's what makes this so perfect." Victor gestured to one of the guards. "Give her the phone." A phone was pressed into Lena's hand, already dialing. It rang once. Lucien answered. "Lena." His voice was raw, desperate. "Lucien," she gasped. "Are you hurt?" "No, not yet. I'm going to get you back, I promise." "I know." Victor took the phone from her. "Lucien, I believe we need to renegotiate our earlier conversation." "Where is she?" "Safe, for now. But that changes at midnight unless you meet my terms." "What terms?" "Simple. You. In exchange for her. Public setting. Neutral ground. You come alone, unarmed, and I let her walk away." "And me?" "You and I will settle our dispute like men, one way or another." Silence on the other end, then Lucien's voice, cold as winter. "Where and when?" "The old Riverside Warehouse District, Pier 17, midnight. Come alone or I start sending you pieces of her." Victor ended the call. Lena's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. "He won't come alone." "Of course he will. Because he thinks he can fight his way out." Victor settled back against the van wall. "Men like Lucien always think they're immortal. Right up until they're not." The van drove for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. When it finally stopped, Lena was dragged out into cold night air. They were at the waterfront. Abandoned warehouses loomed on all sides, skeletal against the night sky. The smell of rust and salt water hung heavy. Victor's men pushed her into one of the warehouses, vast empty space, broken windows high above letting in moonlight, water dripping somewhere in the darkness. They tied her to a support column in the center of the space, rough rope cutting into her wrists, tight enough to hurt, but not tight enough to cut off circulation. Victor stood in front of her, studying her like she was a painting he was considering buying. "You really don't know where Grant hid the money?" he asked. "No." "Pity. That would have made this much simpler." "If you're going to kill me, just do it." "Kill you?" No. You're far too valuable alive." Victor checked his watch. "Lucien has 7 hours to get here. I imagine he'll arrive early. He'll try to scout the location, find weaknesses, plan an assault." He smiled. "I've planned for that. My men have this entire district locked down. The moment he shows his face, we'll know." "Then what?" "Then we see if Lucien Moretti loves you enough to die for you." Victor turned and walked away, leaving Lena alone in the dark with 4 armed guards watching her every breath. Time crawled. Lena's wrists ached. Her shoulders burned from being pulled back. She tried to work the ropes loose, but they were tied by someone who knew what they were doing. Hours passed. 11 p.m. 11:30. The guards changed positions, checked their weapons, spoke in low voices in Russian. 11:45. One of the guards' radios crackled. Movement on the north perimeter, single vehicle approaching. Too early, another guard muttered. It's him, the first one said. Has to be. 11:50. The warehouse doors crashed open. Lucien walked in, alone, unarmed, hands visible and empty, blood still staining his shirt from the earlier fight, a cut above his eye that hadn't been treated. He looked like he'd driven straight here without stopping. His eyes found Lena. For 1 second, his mask slipped and she saw raw terror. Then it was gone, replaced by cold control. I'm here, he called out. Let her go. Victor emerged from the shadows, flanked by a dozen armed men. Lucien, punctual as always. We had a deal, me for her. We do. But first, I need you to understand something. Victor gestured, and two of his men grabbed Lucien's arms. He didn't resist. You embarrassed me. Cost me face in front of the entire criminal underworld. That requires consequences. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not sure you do. Victor walked closer. So I'm going to make this very clear. You can have the girl, but first, you kneel. Lucien's jaw tightened. No. Kneel, Lucien, right here, in front of all these witnesses. Show everyone that Victor Sorin broke the great Lucien Moretti. Then you can have your precious Lena and walk away. And if I refuse, then I put a bullet in her head and you watch. Then I put one in yours. Victor's smile was vicious. Your choice. Your pride or her life. Lena's voice cracked. Don't do it. Don't give him the satisfaction. Lucien looked at her, really looked at her. And Lena saw the exact moment he made his choice. He dropped to his knees. The warehouse went silent. Victor's smile widened. Say it. Say you submit. Lucien's voice was barely above a whisper. I submit. Louder. I submit to Victor Sorin's authority. Victor laughed. See? Was that so hard? He turned to his men. Cut her loose. They've both learned their... The explosion ripped through the east wall of the warehouse. Concussion wave knocked everyone off their feet. Fire bloomed in the darkness. Smoke and debris filled the air. Through the chaos came armed figures in tactical gear. Lucien's men, Elena in the lead despite the blood-soaked bandage on her shoulder. Gunfire erupted. Victor's men returned fire. The warehouse transformed into a war zone. And Lucien surged to his feet, no longer unarmed. He'd had a knife strapped to his ankle the whole time, and drove it into the nearest guard's throat. He fought his way toward Lena through absolute chaos. Victor screamed orders. His men tried to rally, but they were caught between Lucien's assault and Elena's tactical team. Lucien reached Lena and cut the ropes with 3 quick slashes. She fell into his arms. I told you to come alone, she gasped. I lied. He pulled her toward the hole his men had blown in the wall. Can you run? Yes. Then run. Elena will get you out. What about you? Lucien looked back at Victor, who was retreating deeper into the warehouse, still shouting orders. I have to finish this. Lucien, run, Lena, please. He kissed her hard and fast. Then he was gone, disappearing into the smoke and gunfire. Elena grabbed Lena's arm. Come on. They ran through the hole in the wall, out into the night. More of Lucien's men waited there, weapons ready. Behind them, the warehouse burned. And inside, 2 apex predators fought for dominance in a world that had no room for both of them. Lena heard Victor scream, heard Lucien roar, heard gunfire that went on and on and on until she couldn't tell who was shooting anymore. Then silence. Terrible, absolute silence. Elena held Lena back when she tried to run toward the warehouse. Wait, Elena said. Just wait. Seconds stretched. Then a figure emerged from the smoke. Lucien, covered in blood, limping, but alive. Lena broke free from Elena and ran to him. He caught her as her legs gave out, holding her upright. Is he dead? She whispered. Lucien's voice was hollow. Yes. Are you? Not yet. Around them, the warehouse burned against the night sky, and Lena realized that nothing would ever be the same again. They'd crossed every line there was to cross, and there was no going back. The safe house was a cabin 2 hours north of the city, buried so deep in the woods that even the GPS lost signal half a mile out. Elena drove while Lucian bled quietly in the back seat, Lena's hands pressed against the worst of his wounds, trying to slow the flow. He'd been shot twice. Once in the side, the bullet passing clean through. Once in the thigh, still lodged somewhere in the muscle, plus knife wounds she couldn't count and bruises blooming across his ribs that suggested broken bones underneath. But he was alive. Victor Sorin wasn't. Lena had seen enough of the body when they'd dragged Lucian out to know that. Victor's throat had been cut so deep his head had nearly come off. Lucian's work. Final and brutal. The kind of thing you couldn't come back from. They reached the cabin just as dawn broke pink and gold through the trees. Elena killed the engine and came around to help Lena get Lucian inside. He could barely walk. Each step left bloody footprints on the wooden porch. Inside, the cabin was sparse but functional. One main room with a fireplace, a bedroom barely big enough for a bed, a bathroom with a shower that had seen better days. They laid Lucian on the bed and Elena disappeared, returning with a medical kit that looked military grade. "I need to get the bullet out," she said, pulling on gloves. "This is going to hurt." Lucien's laugh came out wet. "Everything hurts." "It's about to hurt worse." Elena looked at Lena. "Hold him down. He's going to fight me." Lena positioned herself at Lucien's shoulders, hands braced against him. Elena cut away his pants, exposing the wound in his thigh. The entry point was small, dark, surrounded by purple-black bruising. She didn't warn him before she started digging. Lucian's scream was raw and animal, his body arched off the bed. Lena threw her weight across his chest, pinning him. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm so sorry." Elena worked fast, fingers probing the wound with professional efficiency. Blood ran fresh and bright. Lucien's hands fisted in the sheets hard enough to tear the fabric. Then Elena pulled out the bullet, mangled piece of metal that had nearly killed him. She dropped it in a metal dish with a wet clink. "Done," she said. "Packing it now." Gauze and pressure and bandages. Elena worked in silence while Lucian shook beneath Lena's hands. When it was finally over, Lucian lay there breathing like he'd run a marathon. Sweat soaked his hair, his skin pale beneath the blood and dirt. Elena stood. "The through and through on his side is clean, packed and bandaged. The leg wound was the bad one. He'll need antibiotics and rest. Lots of rest." "Will he be okay?" Lena's voice cracked. "If infection doesn't set in, yes." Elena pulled off her gloves. "I'll check on him in a few hours. You should clean up. There's clothes in the dresser." She left, closing the door quietly behind her. Lena stayed where she was, hands still on Lucian's chest, feeling the unsteady rise and fall of his breathing. His eyes opened slowly, silver gray and clouded with pain. "You stayed," he rasped. "Where else would I go?" "Anywhere. Away from this. Away from me." Lena's throat tightened. "It's a little late for that." "Not too late. Elena can take you somewhere safe, new identity, money. You could disappear, start over. Is that what you want?" Lucian's hand came up, shaking, and touched her face. His fingers left blood streaks on her cheek. "I want you safe." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters." His eyes searched hers. "I killed Victor Sorin. That starts a war, Lena. His organization won't let it stand. They'll come for me, and anyone close to me." "So you're trying to push me away." "I'm trying to save your life." Lena pulled his hand from her face and held it between both of hers. "You don't get to make that choice for me. Not anymore." "Lena, no. Listen." She leaned closer. "You dragged me into this world. You made me part of your war whether I wanted it or not. And now that it's gotten ugly, you don't get to suddenly develop a conscience and send me away. This isn't conscience. This is survival. Mine or yours?" Lucian closed his eyes. "Both." Lena stood and walked to the small bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror for the first time since the warehouse. The woman staring back was a stranger. Blood in her hair, bruises forming on her arms from where Victor's men had grabbed her, her clothes torn and filthy, eyes that had seen things no civilian should ever see. She looked like someone who'd been to war. Maybe she had. Lena stripped off her ruined clothes and stood under the shower spray until the water ran clear. She scrubbed blood from her skin, from under her fingernails, from places it had no business being. When she emerged, she found clean clothes in the dresser like Elena had said. Jeans, t-shirt, thick socks, all her size. Because of course they were. Lucian had been planning for this. For her. Even before she'd known she was part of his world. The thought should have made her angry. Instead, she just felt tired. She went back to the bedroom. Lucien was asleep, or unconscious. She couldn't tell which. His breathing was shallow but steady. Lena pulled a chair next to the bed and sat down. She stayed there while dawn turned to full morning, watching him breathe, trying to make sense of everything that had happened in the span of a week. 7 days ago, she'd been counting coins in a grocery store parking lot. Now she was sitting vigil over a man who'd killed for her. The absurdity of it should have broken her. Instead, she felt oddly calm, like she'd finally stopped fighting the current and just let it carry her wherever it was going to go. Lucien woke in the late afternoon, fever bright in his eyes. Lena pressed a hand to his forehead, burning. "Elena," she called. Elena appeared with more medical supplies. She checked Lucian's wounds, changed the dressings, gave him antibiotics from a bottle with no label. "Fever's expected," she said. "His body's fighting off trauma. Keep him hydrated. Wake me if it gets worse." She left again. Lena sat on the edge of the bed and held a glass of water to Lucian's lips. He drank, grimacing. "You're still here," he said. "Still here." "Why?" Lena set the glass down. "Because nowhere else makes sense anymore." "That's not a reason." "It's the only one I have." Lucien's hand found hers. "When this is over, when I've dealt with Victor's people and secured things, I'll get you out. Set you up somewhere far from all this. You'll be safe. And you? I'll be what I've always been. Alone." His silence was answer enough. Lena squeezed his hand. "What if I don't want to leave?" "You say that now, but you haven't seen the full cost yet. I watched you kill a man tonight. You watched me kill one man. There will be more. Many more." Lucien's eyes were dark. "This is my life, Lena. Violence and blood and decisions that keep me awake at night. You deserve better." "Maybe. But maybe I'm tired of deserving things I never actually get." "That's exhaustion talking. That's honesty talking." Lena stood and paced to the window. Outside, the woods were peaceful, quiet. No hint of the chaos they'd left behind. "My whole life, I've played by the rules. Worked hard. Stayed out of trouble. And where did it get me? Broke. Alone. Getting humiliated in grocery stores by men who treated me like I was disposable. Grant was a coward and a thief. Grant was normal. That's the terrifying part." Lena turned to face Lucian. "Normal men think it's okay to use people and throw them away. But you're not normal. You're dangerous and possessive and probably insane. But you looked at me like I mattered before you even knew my name. I stalked you, manipulated you, put you in danger. Yes. And you also saw me. Really saw me. Not the struggling waitress or the ex-girlfriend or the girl who wasn't good enough. You saw someone worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth burning the world down over." Lucian struggled to sit up. Pain flashed across his face, but he pushed through it. "That's not love, Lena. That's obsession. Maybe they're the same thing." "They're not." "How do you know? Have you ever loved anyone before?" The question hung in the air. Lucien looked away. "No." "Then how do you know what it looks like?" "Because I know what obsession looks like. I know what it feels like to see something and decide you have to have it no matter the cost. That's not healthy. It's not sustainable. Eventually, it destroys everything it touches. Or maybe it's just honest." Lena moved back to the bed. "Everyone else pretends. They say they love you, but it comes with conditions. As long as you're useful, as long as you're what they need. But you decided I was yours before I'd even done anything to earn it. That's exactly my point. You shouldn't have to earn basic human decency." "But I do. That's how the world works. And you're the first person who looked at me and said, 'No, that's wrong, and I'm going to fix it.'" Lucien's jaw tightened. "I didn't fix anything. I made everything worse." "Did you?" Lena sat on the bed facing him. "Grant's in federal prison. Victor's dead. I'm alive. Feels pretty fixed to me. You're alive but traumatized. You've lost your job. Your apartment was broken into. You can't go back to your normal life." "I didn't want my normal life. It was slowly killing me. At least this..." She gestured at the room, at him, at everything. At least this makes me feel something other than numb. Feeling terrified and hunted is better than feeling numb. Feeling alive is better than feeling numb. Lucian studied her face. You're in shock. Once the adrenaline wears off, you'll see clearly. You'll realize this is insane. I already know it's insane. I've known since the moment I got in your car. Lena took his hand. But insane doesn't mean wrong. It doesn't mean right either. No, but it means real. And I'm tired of fake. Lucian pulled his hand away and lay back against the pillows. Get some rest. We'll talk about this when I'm not bleeding and delirious with fever. You're not delirious. Then I'm just bleeding. Lena smiled despite everything. Sleep. I'll be here when you wake up. That's what I'm afraid of. But his eyes were already closing. Lena sat in the chair and watched him sleep until darkness fell outside, and Elena appeared with food neither of them could eat. 3 days passed in the cabin. Lucien's fever broke on the second day. By the third, he could walk without help, though he moved like every step hurt. Elena made calls on encrypted phones, gave updates to people Lena didn't know about situations she didn't understand. The war Lucien had predicted was brewing, but it hadn't exploded yet. Victor's death had created a power vacuum. Different factions were circling, trying to claim territory, but no one had made a move against Lucien directly. Yet. On the fourth morning, Lena woke to find Lucien standing at the window, fully dressed, looking out at the woods. You're up early, she said. Couldn't sleep. She joined him at the window. What are you thinking? That I need to go back. Face this head on before it gets worse. Okay. Lucien looked at her. Okay? You're going back to the city, to your world, to finish what Victor started. Lena met his gaze. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Not negotiable. Lena, you said it yourself. I can't go back to my old life. Victor's people know who I am. Even with you dead, they'd see me as either a target or an asset. She crossed her arms. Running won't make me safe. The only thing that makes me safe is you eliminating the threat completely. That could take months, years. Then I guess we'll be spending a lot of time together. Lucien shook his head. You don't know what you're signing up for. No, but I'll learn. Lena moved closer. You don't get to make this decision for me. You don't get to push me away because you think it's what's best. I'm choosing this, choosing you, whatever that means. It means danger, constant vigilance, never being truly safe. I've never been truly safe. At least with you, I have a chance. Lucien's hand came up to cup her face. You could have so much more than this. More of what? More struggling? More being invisible? More men like Grant making me feel like I'm nothing? Lena covered his hand with hers. I'd rather have this, have you, even with all the mess and danger and blood. That's the fever talking. That's me talking. The real me. Not the version that pretends to be fine with scraps. She leaned into his touch. You woke something up in me, Lucien. You made me angry, made me want things, made me believe I deserved to fight for them. You don't get to take that back now. I never wanted to take it back. I wanted to protect you from the consequences. Then protect me by keeping me close. Teach me to survive in your world instead of sending me away to die in mine. Lucien's thumb brushed her cheekbone. If you do this, if you stay, there's no going back. You'll be marked. Forever. As mine. Good. You say that now. I say that always. Lena pulled his hand down and held it between both of hers. Stop trying to save me from myself. I'm not that girl in the parking lot anymore. You made sure of that. I didn't mean to change you. Yes, you did. You said it yourself. You saw someone worth saving and decided to prove the world wrong. She smiled. Congratulations. You succeeded. Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled her into his arms, careful of his healing wounds, and held her like she might disappear. This is going to be hard, he said against her hair. I know. People will try to hurt you to get to me. I know. You'll see things, do things, become things you never thought you'd be. I know. Lena pulled back enough to look at him. But I'll do it next to you, not hiding somewhere wondering if you're alive or dead. Lucien's eyes were soft. You're sure? I got in the car, didn't I? His laugh was quiet. Yes, you did. And I'm still here. Yes, you are. Then stop trying to send me away. Lucian kissed her, gentle this time, not desperate or claiming, just honest. When they broke apart, Lena saw the decision in his eyes. Okay, he said. You stay, but on my terms. Which are? You learn to protect yourself. Shooting, fighting, tactical awareness, all of it. Okay? You trust Elena. If I'm not available, you listen to her like her word is law. Okay? And you understand that there will be times I have to do things, make decisions, that you won't like, that might even horrify you. But I'll need you to trust that I'm doing what's necessary. Lena hesitated. That's asking a lot. I know, but that's the cost of this world. Sometimes survival means compromise. She thought about Victor's body, about Grant in federal prison, about the casual violence she'd witnessed in just 1 week. I can live with compromise, she said finally, as long as you're honest about what you're compromising. Always. Then we have a deal. Lucian pulled her close again. This is insane. You keep saying that because it keeps being true. But you're doing it anyway. Yeah, I am. They stood there as morning light filled the cabin, two broken people who'd found something like salvation in each other's damage. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't safe. It probably wasn't even sane. But it was real. And real was all Lena had ever wanted. They returned to the city a week later, not to Lucian's estate. That had been compromised. Too dangerous now. Instead, to a penthouse apartment in a building Lena had never seen, protected by security that made the estate look casual. The city had changed in the days they'd been gone. Or maybe Lena had changed, and the city just reflected it differently now. News reports talked about the warehouse fire at Pier 17, about the bodies found inside, about escalating gang violence and federal investigations. Grant Holloway's trial was set for the spring. The prosecution had enough evidence to put him away for 20 years minimum. Vanessa Carmichael had fled to Europe, engagement off, her family desperately distancing themselves from the scandal, and Lena's old life had simply ceased to exist. Her apartment had been cleared out, Elena's doing, boxing up what little Lena owned and storing it somewhere safe. Her job was gone. Her friends, what few she'd had stopped calling after the second unanswered text. She was a ghost in her old world, and something new in Lucienne's. The first month was brutal. Elena trained her 6 hours a day, hand-to-hand combat, weapons, situational awareness, how to read a room, how to spot threats, how to kill someone with everyday objects if necessary. Lena's body transformed, muscle replacing softness, reflexes sharpening, the scared girl in the parking lot burning away under relentless pressure. At night, she'd collapse into bed next to Lucienne, every muscle screaming. "This is hell," she gasped one night. "This is survival," Lucienne corrected, massaging her aching shoulders. "Elena's not trying to torture you. She's trying to make sure you can fight back if something happens when I'm not there. Nothing better happen when you're not there." "But if it does," Lena was quiet, then, "I'll be ready." Good. Slowly, cautiously, Lucien rebuilt his organization. Victor's death had fractured the balance of power. Other families tried to move into the vacuum. Lucien pushed back with calculated violence and strategic alliances. There were nights he came home covered in blood that wasn't his. Nights he disappeared for days and came back hollow-eyed and quiet. Nights Lena woke to find him standing at the window, watching the city like he was waiting for it to attack. But he always came back to her, and she always stayed. 6 months after that night in the parking lot, Lena stood in front of a mirror in a different dress. Simpler than the midnight blue, cream-colored silk, elegant without being ostentatious. Her reflection was unrecognizable from the woman she'd been, confident, strong, eyes that had seen darkness and hadn't blinked. Behind her in the mirror, Lucien appeared. He wore a black suit, hair-styled, the scars on his hands visible beneath expensive cufflinks. "Ready?" he asked. Lena turned. "For what?" "To make this official." He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a ring. Simple band, single diamond, not ostentatious, not flashy, perfect. "I'm not proposing," Lucian said. Because this isn't a proposal. It's a statement of fact. He took the ring out. You're mine. I'm yours. And I want everyone to know it. Lena's throat tightened. That's possibly the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. Good thing it's not a proposal, then. Lucien, I love you. The words came out rough, like he wasn't used to saying them. I'm obsessed with you. I'd burn this entire city to ash if it meant keeping you safe. And I want to spend whatever time I have left, whether that's 50 years or 50 days, making sure you never forget that you matter. Lena's vision blurred. That's better. So what? So will you marry me, or do I have to kidnap you again? Lena laughed through tears. You never actually kidnapped me the first time. Semantics. Important semantics. Lucian took her hand. Lena Vale. Will you marry a criminal who's probably going to get you killed? When you put it that way, how can I refuse? He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Because of course it did. They were married 3 weeks later in a private ceremony at a courthouse, witnessed by Elena and 2 of Lucien's most trusted men. No flowers, no music, no white dress or grand celebration. Just vows spoken quietly and promises made that had nothing to do with tradition and everything to do with survival. When the judge pronounced them married, Lucien kissed her like he was sealing a contract written in blood. Maybe he was. That night, they stood on the balcony of the penthouse, looking out over the city lights. Any regrets? Lucien asked. Lena thought about the question, really thought about it. A year ago, she'd been counting coins in a parking lot, crying over a broken car and a broken life. Now she was married to one of the most dangerous men on the East Coast. She'd learned to fight, to shoot, to survive in a world most people didn't even know existed. She'd watched people die, had almost died herself. She'd become someone her younger self wouldn't recognize. No, she said finally, no regrets. Even knowing what this life costs? Especially knowing what it costs. Lena leaned against him. My old life was slow death. This is actually living. This is barely controlled chaos. Same thing. Lucien's arm wrapped around her waist. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to keep you safe. I'm going to spend the rest of mine making sure you don't have to do it alone. That's terrifying. That's marriage. He laughed quietly. I suppose it is. They stood there as the city sprawled below them, lights twinkling like stars brought down to earth. Somewhere out there, enemies plotted, threats gathered. The world that Lucien had built through violence and cunning remained precarious. But up here, on this balcony, in this moment, they were safe. And that was enough. Lena thought about Grant sometimes. About the man who'd humiliated her in a grocery store and set this entire chain of events in motion. He was in federal prison now, every bit of his carefully constructed life dismantled. His reputation destroyed. His future measured in years behind bars. She should feel vindicated. Instead, she mostly felt nothing. Grant Holloway didn't matter anymore. He was just the catalyst that brought her to where she always should have been. Sometimes at night, when Lucien was sleeping beside her and the city was quiet, Lena would lie awake and marvel at the strangeness of her life. She'd gone from counting coins to counting enemies, from scraping by to having more money than she knew what to do with, from being invisible to being the most protected woman in the city. It should have felt surreal. Instead, it felt inevitable, like every terrible thing that had happened before was just preparation for this, for him, for the life they'd built together out of violence and obsession and something that might actually be love. A year after they were married, Lena stood in front of a different mirror. Her reflection showed someone unrecognizable from the girl in the parking lot. She wore tailored pants and a silk blouse. Her hair was styled professionally. The ring on her finger caught the light, but it was her eyes that showed the real change. Hard. Knowing. The eyes of someone who'd seen the worst humanity had to offer and survived it. Behind her, Lucien appeared like he always did, silent, watchful. The Moretti Foundation's charity gala starts in an hour, he said. Are you ready? The foundation was their cover, their legitimacy, a way to launder their reputation the same way Grant had laundered money. It funded scholarships for kids like Lena had been, paid medical bills for families drowning in debt, gave second chances to people the world had given up on. It was real charity, funded by very illegal money. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. I'm ready, Lena said. At the gala, she moved through crowds of wealthy donors and city officials with practiced ease. She knew which smiles were real and which were calculation, knew who was genuinely interested in the cause, and who was just there to network with Lucien Moretti. She'd learned to read people the way Lucien did, and she used that knowledge ruthlessly. By the end of the night, they'd raised $2 million for the foundation. On the drive home, Lucien took her hand. "You were incredible tonight," he said. "I learned from the best." "You surpassed the best." Lena squeezed his hand. "We make a good team. The best kind of team, the dangerous kind." "Is there any other kind?" "Not in our world." They rode in comfortable silence until they reached the penthouse. Inside, Elena was waiting with a tablet. "We have a problem," she said. Lucian's expression hardened. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that requires both of you." She pulled up security footage. A man Lena didn't recognize, standing outside one of their legitimate business fronts, taking photographs. "Who is he?" Lena asked. "Federal investigator. FBI Financial Crimes Division. He's been sniffing around the foundation's funding sources." Lucien's jaw tightened. "How close is he?" "Close enough to be a problem, not close enough to move yet." "Then we move first." "Lucien," Lena said quietly. "He's FBI, not some street thug. You can't just—" "I know." Lucien looked at her. "Which is why we're going to be smart about this. Legal. Use our lawyers, our accountants, our legitimate business practices to create so much paperwork he'll drown in it. And if that doesn't work, then we find leverage. Everyone has something they want to keep hidden. We find his something and we neutralize him without violence." Lena studied his face. "You've changed. You changed me." "How?" "By making me want to live long enough to see what we become." He touched her face. "Before you, I would have just eliminated the threat. Now I actually consider the consequences." "That's called growth. That's called being terrified of losing you." Lena smiled. "Same thing." They spent the next month carefully dismantling the FBI investigator's case before he even knew he had one. Legal strategies, legitimate paperwork, donations rerouted through so many shell companies that proving anything illegal became effectively impossible. It was exhausting. It was tedious. It was exactly the kind of warfare Lena had learned to excel at. When the investigator finally gave up and moved on to easier targets, Lucien took Lena to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city. "What are we celebrating?" she asked. "Survival. Again. We're always celebrating survival." "That's because we're always surviving." Lucien raised his wine glass. "To you, for being smarter than any federal investigator." "To us," Lena corrected, "for being smart enough to stay alive." They drank. And Lena realized that this was her life now. Not the dramatic confrontations or the warehouse firefights, but this, the quiet victories, the careful navigation of a world that wanted to destroy them, the everyday survival of loving someone dangerous and being dangerous in return. It wasn't the life she'd imagined in that parking lot. It was better. 2 years after that rainy night, Lena stood at the same spot where it had all begun. The supermarket was still dying. The parking lot still had potholes. The fluorescent lights still flickered like dying stars. But Lena was different. She wore expensive clothes now, drove a car that actually worked, had security watching from a discreet distance. She stood where her old sedan had broken down and looked at the space like it was an archaeological site from someone else's life. Lucien appeared beside her. He didn't ask why she'd wanted to come here, just stood with her in silence. "I was so scared that night," Lena said quietly. "I know. I thought my life was over, that I'd never escape the cycle of barely surviving." "You didn't escape it. You burned it down and built something new." Lena smiled. "We burned it down." Semantics. Important semantics. She turned to face him. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't stopped that night?" "Every day." "And?" "And I'm glad I don't have to know." Lucien pulled her close. "You got in the car. Everything else follows from that choice. Best decision I ever made. Or worst. Same thing." They stood there in the parking lot as evening fell. Two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to build something that looked like love, even if it was really just mutual obsession and survival instinct. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. It definitely wasn't sane, but it was theirs, and in the end, that was all that mattered. Lena thought about the girls she'd been, counting coins, crying over a broken car, accepting humiliation as the price of existing. That girl was gone. In her place was someone harder, smarter, someone who knew how to fight and when to run and how to love someone who was probably going to get her killed. She wouldn't trade it for anything. "Ready to go home?" Lucian asked. Lena took one last look at the parking lot, at the space where her old life had ended and her new one had begun. Then she took Lucien's hand. "Yeah," she said, "let's go home." They walked back to the car together, leaving the past where it belonged, behind them. And whatever came next, whatever threats or challenges or violence the world threw at them, they'd face it the same way they'd faced everything else. Together. Because Lena Vale had learned something important in the 2 years since a stranger in an expensive car had offered her a ride. Sometimes salvation doesn't look like safety. Sometimes it looks like danger wrapped in expensive suits and promises of protection. Sometimes it looks like a man who sees your worth before you do and decides you're worth fighting for, worth killing for, worth building an empire around keeping safe. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough. The car pulled away from the dying supermarket, carrying them back into the city where their real life waited. A life built on blood and money and obsession, a life that would probably destroy them eventually. But until then, they'd burn bright enough to blind anyone who tried to look too closely. And Lena wouldn't have it any other way.